Welcome into the Steelers Talk live show. I'm your host, Jack Sperry. Thank you guys so much for joining me here on a Monday afternoon to talk some Steelers football here with you guys. And we got some great content coming your way. We got really a loaded show, lots to talk about on today's program today. Obviously, we continued the NFL owners meetings in Phoenix, and Mike McCarthy had quite a bit to talk about. Pretty much confirmed Aaron Rodgers will be back this year. Talked about Michael Pittman Jr. and some other topics. Also have some other topics to discuss in today's news and rumors segment at the top of today's program. Then we'll get into why I believe the wide receiver position should be the number one priority for the Pittsburgh Steelers heading into the NFL draft this year. Obviously, we have our number one and number two wide receivers in the building, but this room is not exactly complete right now. I'm going to be explaining exactly what I mean later on in today's show. Also, we'll get into some new wide receiver trade rumors that are swirling around out there as the Steelers continue to look for their wide receiver 3 this season. And then we'll finish up today's show with a mock draft roundup. ESPN draft analysts Field Yates and Matt Miller have come out with new mock drafts, multi-round mock drafts with some pretty interesting players going to the Pittsburgh Steelers in their latest mocks. I'll be reacting to those in our final segment today. So I want to see who the real ones are down there in the comment section. Spam those me's in the chat if you want a shout out, if you've already liked the show. My mother's in the chat. Patty Gustafson's in the chat, everybody. Everyone say hi to my mom. Of course, my lovely fiance, Cassie Voth, is in the chat. Hi, Cassie. It's great to see you. Then we've got Tristan White. We got Skylar, Jake. We've got Damian Roy in the chat. We got Limitless, Skylar. We've got Russell. We've got Czar Craig. We've got Damian. We've got Andres. We've got Justin Yankuski's here. What's up, my friend? We've got Anton. We got Kevin. We've got Kevin, Chadwick, Gerald Crawford. Man, they're coming in so fast I can't even read them. We got Nicholas Harmon in the chat. What's up, Nick? Good to see you. Got a good crew of Steelers fans ready to talk some ball here. And if you guys have a question that you guys want to get on the show today, we're not doing a mailbag today, so if you want to get your question up on screen, you got a super chat, okay? If you don't know how to super chat, it's that dollar symbol that's down there in the live chat room. You click that, send in a dollar amount with a question, and our producer today is going to be able to get you up on screen and get your question up there, and we can answer any topic you have, anything regarding the Pittsburgh Steelers, whether it's the scheme that this new coaching staff is bringing in here, whether it's the draft strategy, which is coming up here in just a couple of weeks. If it's about Aaron Rodgers, it's about whatever you guys want. I'm happy to answer any and all questions on the Black and Gold. And if you guys want to skip the line and you guys want your question answered first, you guys can Venmo or PayPal. You can find me at Jack-Sperry on Venmo or at Captain Jackrabbit on PayPal. The reason why Venmo and PayPal questions get answered first is because we get to keep more of the proceeds than with Super Chats here on YouTube. YouTube takes a 30% cut of every single Super Chat you send in, and then Apple takes another 10%, whereas with Venmo and PayPal, we get to keep more of those proceeds and more of your donation dollars go to the channel. So if you guys want to send in your donations via Venmo or PayPal, you can do that. Also, if you guys put in a $25 donation, you guys can actually purchase one of our Steelers Talk rope hats that we have for purchase. So that's $25 or more to Venmo or PayPal, at Jack-Sperry on Venmo or at Captain Jackrabbit on PayPal. Got our first super chat coming in here from my man Bernard Nixon, and our producer here today that we'll introduce in a second. You're going to see Bernard Nixon quite a bit here. He is one of our most avid super chatters, to say the least. And Bernard says, Skip said he would take Cousins over Rodgers and said Rodgers has been done the last 5 years, LOL. And we've definitely talked about this, pretty extensively here on the show. The thing about Cousins is that he doesn't have any arm strength left, and that's really the marker of a quarterback that's just done for, that's completely washed, is a quarterback that just can't push the ball down the field in the tight windows, and that is certainly the case with Kirk Cousins at this point in his career, whereas with Rodgers, he still has that quick whippy motion. He can throw it down the field. Obviously, this team as a whole didn't throw the ball down the field on offense last year, but we've attributed a lot of that to the fact that there wasn't a lot of open downfield options for Rodgers Rodgers to throw to, and he opted to play more of a point guard style of play to play methodically and kind of play to the strengths of the Steelers' offense. With McCarthy coming in, somebody that loves to throw the ball down the field, if you can give Rodgers a better wide receiver room, which I think is already underway with Michael Pittman Jr. and that trade on the first day of free agency, not to mention you're probably going to be adding somebody pretty early in the NFL draft, not to mention you're going to be using Freiermuth more this year. You still got Darnell Washington. You still got Jaylen Warren, one of the best receiving backs in the league. I'm right there with you, Bernard. I think Rodgers, certainly, Bayless said that he hasn't been good in 5 years. That's just incorrect. He won an MVP 5 years ago, so pretty sure he was pretty good during that season. But we've also talked about the fact that, the surrounding cast for Rodgers over the last 4 years have been anything but ideal, right? Like he hasn't been healthy, hasn't had a stable organization, and hasn't had a good wide receiver room, hasn't had all three of those things in the same year since 2021, his last MVP season. In 2022, he played on a broken thumb for most of the season, and he didn't have Davante Adams. He was traded to the Las Vegas Raiders that offseason. Then his first year at the Jets, torn Achilles, didn't play at all, or played like 7 plays or whatever. Then in 2024, complete organizational, destruction there in New York with the Jets. Like, that wasn't Aaron Rodgers' fault. And then last year here in Pittsburgh, he got a stable organization, but he had a terrible wide receiver room. So he hasn't had that holy trinity, if you will, of having a stable organization with a good wide receiver room, and he's been healthy since 2021. And right now, the Steelers are giving him the best chance to have all three than he's had in the last decade. So looking at that, I think that, Rodgers probably gives this team the best chance to succeed this year, which is why the Steelers are pursuing him in NFL free agency. $5 from Matt Sabb. What's up, my man? Says Adams is a steal for a third round. I would give him a 2-year deal. So if you guys didn't see, our pinned question in the live chat room here is, would you trade a third-round pick for Davante Adams if he's available? 70% of you guys say yes to that question. So for me, guys, like, if it's a third-round pick to get Adams, like, he's only on a 1-year contract. He's 33 years old. Like, I don't think the Steelers would necessarily give him an extension like Matt says that he would want to do here. Maybe they would. I mean, if he continues to play well, I mean, why not? But you do have DK and Michael Pittman Jr. under contract for the next 4 seasons. So maybe they do give him a little bit of an extension and kind of lower his cap hit for this year. Because if you acquire him, the main thing there, Matt, is you're taking on $24 million in cap space for this season. The Steelers only have about $30 million left in cap, and they still have to pay Aaron Rodgers. So obviously you can still do some restructures and some playing around with the cap. But obviously it will be a little bit of an investment if you end up getting Davante Adams. But listen, man, at the end of the day, Aaron Rodgers likes veteran wide receivers. He's always had trouble connecting with these younger receivers, especially rookie receivers, because he expects routes to be run a certain way, and he expects his receivers to be pros. And like, sometimes these rookie receivers come in, they don't exactly know how to run routes like a pro, and because of that, they don't get the football. So maybe instead of drafting a wide receiver early in the NFL draft this year, you can trade a third-round pick for Davante Adams, and you get somebody that obviously has a legendary connection with Rodgers, will run routes the way Rodgers expects them to be run, can play in the slot, can play outside as well. That's what Mike McCarthy loves. And you give Rodgers, a legitimate wide receiver trio of 3 veteran receivers that for a fact can get the job done in DK Metcalf, Michael Pittman Jr., and then Davante Adams. So I don't think the Rams are looking to deal him, if I'm being honest with you guys. I think the only reason why Adams' name was involved in trade discussions was because they were considering moving him to Philly in exchange for A.J. Brown, and that doesn't appear to be on the table at this point. So I honestly don't think that he led the league in touchdown receptions last year. I don't think it makes a lot of sense for a team trying to win a Super Bowl right now in the Los Angeles Rams to ship away one of their top receivers for a third-round pick. I think it makes more sense for them to keep him. But hey, if the Rams are willing to come to the table, I'd be willing to pay a third-round pick for Davante Adams. $2 from Darian Wilson here. He says, so you ready for the draft? I am so ready for the draft, Darian. You know me, man. I love the NFL draft. I do a bunch of research for it. I mean, like, my schedule now, you can ask Cassie this. It's a lot of, going to work, doing the full thing here at Chat Sports, and then I go home and I watch film on these prospects, and it takes up a lot of time, but I absolutely love it. It's my passion in life, and I can't wait to share some of the great draft content that we have for you guys coming up here live when we're live for every single pick of the NFL draft this year right here on Steelers Talk. $5 from Black Wolf says, my guy Jack Skip is senile. I pay him no attention. Do you think my man Warren could lose his RB1 position to Rico? Well, listen, man, I think that Rico and Jaylen Warren are going to be playing different roles. I don't think it's necessarily an RB1, RB2 situation necessarily. I think it's going to be around 50-50 split. Rico's going to be taking more of the early down stuff, short yardage, goal line, and then Jaylen Warren is going to be doing more of the, passing down stuff, a lot of the 2-minute drill stuff, a lot of the, second and pass, third and pass situations, and he's going to be more of the pass game specialist, almost like a third down back. But I think that the snap share is going to be very similar, man. It's going to be like 50-50. Now, the guy that really gets fucked by the Rico Dowdle signing is Caleb Johnson, your third-round pick last year, who unfortunately it looks like it's just going to have to be delegated to RB3 duties and is going to have to hope one of these guys gets injured for him to have an opportunity to show what he can do on the field this year. Bernard again with a 5 says everybody had a problem with Rodgers dinking and dunking last year. I mean, listen, man, if you have a problem with that, my question to you is, what would you have rather have him do? Was there open receivers last year? Yes or no, down the field? Not really. I mean, DK Metcalf was really the only legitimate downfield weapon that we had, and he consistently got double-teamed. So it's do you want him to throw it up to a double-teamed DK Metcalf? Do you want him to throw it to a 5'8" Calvin Austin III in a tight window? That's not a very high percentage look. You have Jonnu Smith out there over Pat Freiermuth most of the time. I'm not throwing it up to him in a contested catch situation. There just wasn't a whole lot of downfield opportunities for Aaron Rodgers last year, so I don't understand why people are blaming Rodgers for dinking and dunking. I think that you can say that style of play was the smart way to play in this offense last year. With the way it was constructed, you didn't have a lot of downfield opportunities. I still think Rodgers is more than capable of throwing the ball down the field. It's just there wasn't a lot of chances to do so last year, and I think with Michael Pittman Jr., DK Metcalf, they're going to be adding more to the receiver room, Muth playing more. He's going to have more opportunities to throw down the field. So I think we'll see that from Rodgers next year. $10 from Rad Doctor says, do you guys collect football cards? I don't personally. I mean, you guys can answer Rad Doctor in the chat. I don't know. But personally, I don't. I used to when I was a kid, but I don't anymore. Rad Doctor, appreciate the $10 super chat. All right. We're going to continue to get to some of your super chats here in just a second here, but I just want to introduce you guys here to our new producer here on Steelers Talk. Ponzi's still here. Don't worry. Ponzi's just moving to a different channel for the week. We're doing a little bit of a switch up here this week with producers here at Chat Sports, so we get a chance to work with some other players here at the Chat Sports team. And this week we've got Mr. Tom Searle joining us here. So everyone give Steelers Surly a big Steelers Talk welcome. Tom, it's good to have you here, man, and hope that you have a lot of fun on our show.
So far, it's been a great time. So I usually work with our Seahawks channel and our Chargers channel, which we just started within the last 2 months.
Yeah, you got a Super Bowl right off the bat, man.
I don't know. That just might be some good luck I brought to Ortner and Seahawks today.
Oh, maybe you bring some of that to us here in Pittsburgh, man.
Now we're talking. But no, I've been at Chat Sports for about 6 months now. Time's flying by. Haven't worked with Sperry yet before. This is our first time working together.
And I think that's why they decided to pair us up here this week. But he's been doing a great job. I've heard nothing but good things so far. And man, this kid's a hard worker. Let me tell you that right now, man. So Steelers Surly, welcome to the team. And if you got any thoughts throughout all these super chats coming up here,
for sure.
Steelers Surly, first question I'm going to bring your way here. What is your take on the Aaron Rodgers situation right now? It's a question we have to ask everybody that comes on this show because, I mean, it's all anyone can talk about.
It's the elephant in the room, right?
It's the elephant in the room.
And I think you sort of hit the nail on the head when it comes to people are upset that he was dinking and dunking last season. What else could he have done?
Yeah, what was the expectation?
Exactly.
Was he supposed to throw it up to a double-cover DK Metcalf?
Exactly.
I just don't see what the expectation was.
Could not agree more with that. And we're going to dive into this a bit more just in regards to his future as a whole. Mm-hmm. But we had this conversation off camera. I have a hard time seeing him not returning. If he would have made his decision to retire, I think he would have done so by now.
Yeah, I mean,
I think he'll run it back. We'll dive more in here in a bit.
Listen, man, Mike McCarthy said today that he talks with him like every other day. Like they have weekly conversations. He's apparently had conversations with Brian Angelico and the offensive staff. Like, I don't know, man. It kind of feels like if there's somebody that's involved in the offseason progress like every single day and is already learning the playbook and is having daily and weekly conversations with the head coach, kind of feels like he's coming back. It's just he doesn't want to necessarily commit just yet, and he wants to do it on his timeline. But like it feels like the Steelers know that he's coming back, and they've been given certain assurances from Rodgers that he's going to be coming back. And let's just say there's a reason why this team didn't pursue Malik Willis in free agency. They did not. They did not pursue Kyler Murray. They don't do that, and they don't behave this way unless they're like 100% sure Aaron Rodgers comes back. And at this point, after free agency, after the Steelers had opportunities to go and get other quarterbacks, if Rodgers leaves this team out to dry, I mean, he's going to be an absolute villain in the locker room. Like, these players are going to be pissed at Aaron Rodgers if he doesn't come back at this point, because, like, if you're retiring 4 weeks into free agency or whatever it is now, like, you're preventing the team from having opportunities to move on.
You're screwing the organization.
Exactly.
Simply put.
So, like, I think at this point, Rodgers knows he's coming back. He just wants to, quote-unquote, take his time, go through the process, whatever you guys want to call it. But it sounds like the Steelers know who their starting quarterback is going to be for this team next year. And it's going to be Aaron Rodgers, whether, Steelers fans want that or like that idea or not, agree with that strategy, believe what they believe, that he's going to give them the best chance to compete here. It doesn't really matter at this point. It seems like the Steelers are locked in on Rodgers. It seems like Rodgers wants to come back, and it just sounds like it's a matter of when and not if Aaron Rodgers will be signing on the dotted line and returning to the Pittsburgh Steelers here in 2026. Continuing on here with Super Chats, Steelers Surly, if you want to get up there in the little box in the top right, feel free.
For sure.
Taylor C. with a 10 says, should be favored to win the North. Aaron Rodgers is coming back. Roster is way better. The staff is much better. Still have money and picks to spend. Feel like I'm one of the few people that's optimistic. Taylor, I feel exactly the same way. I've been kind of talking very optimistically about this Steelers team on this channel all offseason long, but all people can talk about is like if we're still in the Mike Tomlin era, like, oh, we're just going to go 10-7 again and lose in the first round of the playoffs. Oh, we're just going to win 9 games. Oh, this defense can't go to the next level. Oh, we're bringing back Aaron Rodgers. Our offense can't get any better. But it's like, I feel like you're making pretty big schematic upgrades to both sides of the ball. Mike McCarthy is an upgrade schematically over Arthur Smith. Patrick Graham, I think, is a big schematic upgrade over Terrell Austin and Mike Tomlin on the defensive side of the ball. We'll talk about a little bit about that later in the show as well. But then you're also adding Michael Pittman Jr. You're going to have 12 draft picks this year, so you're going to be injecting a lot of youth and talent into this roster as well. And the defense is still super duper talented, man. Like this, there's a lot of the pieces that were here last year in like preseason was expected to be like one of the best defenses in football. Obviously, we know they came up short of those expectations last year, but I would attribute that more to Terrell Austin and an outdated defensive scheme, which I don't think is an issue anymore. Patrick Graham is coming in here as somebody that's known for getting the most out of his defenses, and this is by far the most talent he's ever had to work with on a defensive roster. I'm really excited about this year's Pittsburgh Steelers team. I think Aaron Rodgers, I think you're going to see an Aaron Rodgers that's more willing to throw the ball down the field this year because he's got actual opportunities to do so this year with a better receiving room. Pat Freiermuth is going to be on the field more. They showed off an awesome connection last year. I like Rico Dowdle in that addition. Like I like the way that this young offensive line is coming together. I'm right there with you, Taylor, where I'm feeling pretty optimistic about this Steelers team next year, and I think there's a chance for this team to take it to the next level.
What is, if you don't mind me asking,
no, go ahead,
the current vibe amongst the fan base? I haven't been tuned in, so I apologize, but I just need some. How would you rate the vibe?
Well, right now, everyone kind of wants to start over and rebuild because the Steelers have been stuck in place for so long, and they've gone with these kind of Band-Aid, stopgap, one-year solutions at quarterback for the last 2 years now, and if Rodgers comes back, which looks like he's going to, it'll be our 3rd year in a row without a quote-unquote long-term answer at quarterback. And, a lot of these fans are like, we've been 10-7 for 3 years straight. We're getting blown out in the playoffs every year. There's no hope for taking this team to the next level, so let's just trade all of our good veterans. Let's completely start over, draft a young quarterback, or go with Will Howard, a 6th-round pick out of Ohio State last year, and let's just try and build something for the future. And I understand where those fans are coming from.
For sure.
Because it is frustrating when you're just not moving anywhere upwardly on a year-to-year basis and you're just stuck in place. But there is a lot of change that is happening in this organization this year. You have a brand new coaching staff with a lot of awesome additions, in my opinion. And I think that you are upgrading on both sides of the ball, like we just talked about. You're bringing in Michael Pittman Jr. I think that, with the talent that already exists, this is a team that's gone 10-7 the last several years, and that is with some pretty bad offensive play.
For sure.
If McCarthy can get this team to be close to a top 10 level group, and then if Patrick Graham can get this good Steelers defense to become a great or an elite defense, listen, man, the Super Bowl champion the last 2 years won 10 games and was a first-round playoff exit or didn't make the playoffs over the last 2 years. The Seahawks were 10-7 and missed the playoffs. The year before, they ended up going on the run that they just went on. The Philadelphia Eagles were 10-7 and lost in the first round of the playoffs, and then boom, they end up making their run. And by the way, those QBs of those two teams, Jalen Hurts and Sam Darnold, I would say are good QBs. They're not elite superstar level guys, which gives you hope for a guy like Aaron Rodgers. You just need him to be a very solid top 12 level quarterback, and then maybe the playoff experience can help him kind of go up against some of these younger quarterbacks in the AFC. And I just think it gives you the best chance to go on a run. It doesn't guarantee that you're going to win a Super Bowl next year. It doesn't mean you're going to be the number 1 seed in the AFC because it is a loaded conference. But there's still a lot of talent on this roster, man. And I just look at it and I'm like, I think that this team can still do some damage next year, and I don't think it's time yet to completely blow it up.
Yeah, and you sort of hit the nail on the head again with I don't think the Seahawks offense was not an explosive juggernaut.
No.
It was their defense that carried them. And yeah, Kenneth Walker had over 1,000 yards. But
Jackson Smith-Njigba was awesome.
JSN's fantastic. But, Darnold had 25 touchdowns, 14 picks. He was not elite quarterback play.
Rodgers had 24-7 last year. So
exactly.
very similar touch. Obviously, I think Darnold may be a little bit more efficient than Rodgers was. Definitely pushed the ball down the field more. I still think Aaron Rodgers, with a good supporting cast around him, he's no longer the MVP, creating out of structure, scramble type of guy anymore.
Yep.
But, to me, he's very similar to Tom Brady at this point in his career, where he's a pocket guy. He knows what his weaknesses and strengths are. He knows he's not going to, have time to, hold the ball forever anymore. He's getting the ball out quickly, and he's taking, what the offense and what the defense and their structure defensively is giving to him. And I think that's a smart way of playing football. And, if you have a good supporting cast around him, you have a run game, you have multiple downfield weapons, if you have a group that can beat man coverage consistently and you can force defenses to play more zone, then Rodgers can use that elite football IQ to pick these zones apart.
Exactly.
And I just think that if the Steelers are going to go on a run and win a 7th Lombardi trophy this year, they're going to have to try and repeat the success of the 2020 Buccaneers. Now, will they be successful doing that with a 43-year-old quarterback? I don't know, Surly. Obviously, you can't guarantee that because there's only one Tom Brady. But but I will say, if there's anybody at age 43 that's going to be able to recreate the success that Tom Brady had, it would be Aaron Rodgers with an improved. And guess what? Brady went from a bad situation offensively in New England in 2019, and then he goes to Tampa Bay in 2020, and he looked way better. Statistically, he was not even a top 20 quarterback his final season in New England. Everyone thought that he was done, that he was washed, that he was cooked. The Buccaneers are idiots for bringing him in. And then in one offseason, he completely transforms back into a top 10 guy. Why? Because he's a non-pocket passer that didn't have good receivers and did not have the proper play calling around him in New England. Then he goes and he joins forces with Bruce Arians, and he joins forces with Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Antonio Brown, Rob Gronkowski, and he's back to business, and he's back to winning Super Bowls. And I can't guarantee that Rodgers can do that for this team this year, but I think he probably gives this team the best chance out of all the quarterback options that are out there.
Definitely.
$5 again from Matt Sabb says, why can't the offense run the ball like they did for Ben his rookie year? They ran it over 600 times. Well, first of all, it's a different league, Matt. Back in the day, it was a lot of condensed formations and just pounding it down your throat run game. And that was just the modern NFL. Especially in the AFC, or that was the modern NFL back in the day, back in the early 2000s when Ben was drafted. That you just don't see that anymore, right? It's more spread. It's more pass-centric. And you're not going to see the Steelers run it 600 times next year. Like, they're not. Like, Mike McCarthy is very much a shotgun, spread them out, West Coast, quick game and downfield vertical passing game type of guy. So, if you're hoping that this team is going to be the smash-mouth team that you probably grew up watching, in the early 2000s or whatever, or you like that brand of football, I just don't see that being something Mike McCarthy's going to bring here to Pittsburgh. I think we will see some 12 personnel, and I still think that they're going to run the football and try to establish that, but I do think McCarthy is a pass game dude, and I think we'll see a lot of passing the football here in Pittsburgh while he is the offensive play caller. $5 from Jago Babo. I hope I'm saying that right, but this is Jagger. Says, I'm not against getting Davante Adams for a third, but also I think drafting a wide receiver first round is more suitable for the team and the future of the team. I don't disagree, man. And there's some good receivers. I'm going to lay out the case for I think getting a legitimate wide receiver 3 for this team is the number one priority for this offense and for this team as a whole for the rest of the offseason. So make sure you stick around for that segment. But yeah, I can understand where it's like we've got 2 older wide receivers, so let's go get our young guy. I completely understand, and I really agree with that philosophy and for the most part there. But the one thing that maybe is a devil's advocate argument for that is Aaron Rodgers likes working with veteran receivers. And if you want Rodgers to return and you want him to be as happy as possible in this offense, and you want to get the most out of this team when Cam Hayward's still playing, when Aaron Rodgers is still playing, when all these guys are still on the team, and you want to get the most out of this group, I think you can make an argument that bringing in Davante Adams, helps this team win now more than drafting a first-round rookie that might have to, spend a little bit of time getting his feet wet in the league. Maybe long-term it makes more sense to go get a wide receiver that's going to be on a 5-year contract that you have cost control over, and, he's your future number 1 receiver. I would be perfectly happy if the Steelers do that. But if they find some way to swindle Davante Adams, who led the league in touchdown receptions last year, by the way, and joining him back up with Aaron Rodgers here in Pittsburgh, I think he becomes this team's wide receiver 1 next year. I think he's this team's number 1 receiver. I think DK's the number 2, and I think Michael Pittman Jr. is the number 3 if you land Davante Adams, and that immediately becomes one of the best receiving trios in the league, period. Maybe the best. That is an unbelievable wide receiver trio. You can beat man with that trio. You can throw it up to Michael Pittman Jr. in the red zone in that trio. Davante is just an unbelievable route runner, even at 33 years old. And then you've got DK, where if you put one-on-one coverage on DK down the field, he can just run by you, and you can get big play touchdowns from him. Not to mention his yak ability on slants and all those different things that we saw from him last year. So if it's a possibility to get Davante Adams for a third-round pick, I'm pulling that trigger, and I'm getting my future number 1 receiver down the road, okay, when Rodgers is no longer this team's starting quarterback. But if there's a chance to go get Davante Adams, who has a legendary connection with your starting quarterback, I think that's something that you want to do in a win-now season. And at the end of the day, it's a third-round pick. It's not like you're mortgaging your future to go get Davante Adams here. And plus, you got 3 third-round picks. You still got 2 third-rounders, even if you make that deal. So if Omar Khan can get Davante Adams for a third, I think that would be a game-changing move for the Pittsburgh Steelers. $2 from James Smith. I appreciate you, James. All right. Next one here, again from James. $5 says, any chance of us picking Jennings or Diggs up in free agency? I would say it's always a possibility. Like we talked about, Surly, Rodgers likes veteran guys. So Juwan Jennings, really good route runner, can play in the slot or outside. Good run blocker too. Yeah. I like Jaylen Jennings. I would not mind that move at all. Same thing goes for Stephon Diggs. Over 1,000 yards last year for a team that made the Super Bowl, was the number 1 receiver on the AFC champion team. So he can still play. Now, he's got some legal stuff that is probably the main reason why he hasn't signed yet. Okay, so I honestly don't think Diggs is going to sign until that gets cleared up. And honestly, I think Diggs would probably want more of a true number 1 receiving role. I don't know if that's what he would get here in Pittsburgh. So I would personally sign either one if everything is cleared up with Diggs, and then if the price tag is good enough. I don't want to pay too much for these guys, but absolutely, I have an open mind to bringing them in. $5 from Trump Card says, trade Herbig for late first. I don't think anyone's trading a late first for Nick Herbig. I'm sorry. First in our first third round pick. draft Ty Simpson, and a wide receiver first round, second round left guard. It's a nice plan in theory. I just think that, it is just something that, fans of a certain team probably overvalue the players on their team at times on the trade market. And I think for an edge rusher to go number one, they have to be a bona fide superstar or a bona fide star player. That's not Nick Herbig. He's been a number 3 rotational guy since he got drafted out of Wisconsin. He's not necessarily the best built edge rusher in the world. Doesn't have the measurables teams usually look for. So I don't think he would be netting a first. I think maybe a second, but honestly might maybe even a third round pick. And I know that's not what people want to hear because they love Nick Herbig, and I love Nick Herbig. He's an awesome fucking football player. But in terms of his trade value, I don't think it's a late first round pick. With all due respect there. But on paper, decent plan. But also Ty Simpson, it just seems like the Steelers don't feel like he's an AFC North quarterback. He's got smaller hands. He's got a smaller body. He dealt with injuries last year in a college football season. How can we really trust him to stay healthy for a 17-game NFL season in the AFC North in one of the toughest, most physical divisions in football? I think the Steelers are probably going to pass on Ty Simpson this year. All right, man. So if you guys want to check out our merch, we have a bunch of merch available for you guys. If you want to help support the channel, we got a bunch of stuff from our Steelers Talk channel logo t-shirts. We've got F the Ravens gear on there. We've got Married Into This stuff on our website. Like, we got all of our stuff from all of our collections up on our website right now if you guys want something to help support the channel. And my bosses tell me, Surly, that if we sell 25 pieces this week,
let's get it.
We are going to be unveiling a new t-shirt next week, and I've seen the mock-up of it. It is freaking sweet.
Yes.
So if you guys want a new t-shirt next week, my bosses tell me we need to sell 25 more t-shirts this week to be able to unlock it. So chatsports.com/Steelers Talk. If you want an F the Ravens t-shirt, if you want a Steelers Talk channel logo t-shirt, Married Into This gear for your sweetheart, whatever the case may be, we've got it all up on our website right now, chatsports.com/Steelers Talk. So we got over 500 people watching live around the world right now. Thank you guys so much for joining the Steelers Talk live show. We got 4 segments for you guys today, a loaded show for you guys on a Monday. The latest Steelers news and rumors from the NFL owners meetings in Phoenix right now coming up first. Then we've got why wide receiver should be the number 1 draft priority for the Pittsburgh Steelers this year. We've got some new wide receiver trade rumors to discuss, and then I'll react to a couple of mock drafts from ESPN at the end of the show to kind of wrap things up. Okay, let's get into it here, Steelers Surly. Our first segment of the day. The latest Steelers news and rumors are coming at you guys here real quick. Let me just take a drink here. All right, folks, keep getting those super chats in. We will answer every super chat before we sign off on today's show. But without further ado, let's get into the latest Steelers news and rumors coming to us from Phoenix. Welcome into Steelers Talk. I'm your host, Jack Sperry, and on tonight's show, Big Mike McCarthy speaks at the league meetings there in Phoenix, talks about Aaron Rodgers, Michael Pittman Jr., and more. Some very interesting stuff from Big Mike to talk about at the top of today's show. Then Kevin O'Connell, the Vikings head coach and previous coach of the year in the National Football League, praises Pittsburgh's new offensive coordinator, Brian Angelico. And then Patrick Queen recently trashed Mike Tomlin and Terrell Austin's defensive scheme on a podcast. I'll let you guys know exactly what he had to say and why he's exactly right. Now, before we get into the content today, make sure you guys give me a follow on X for more Steelers content every single day. I actually give my instant reactions to all these Steelers news topics before we jump on YouTube here on Steelers Talk. So if you guys want my instant reactions to things, if you guys want film analysis, and also I do a bunch of additional just general NFL draft stuff for us here at Chat Sports on my X account, you guys can give me a follow at Jack_Sperry. I greatly appreciate your guys' support. So today, Mike McCarthy was speaking to a bunch of different people, Steelers reporters, and then also he made an appearance on the Pat McAfee show at the NFL League meetings in Arizona. And he pretty much all but confirmed that Aaron Rodgers is going to be back with the Pittsburgh Steelers as their starting quarterback here in 2026. This is what Mike has to say about the ongoing conversations with Aaron Rodgers. I've talked to Aaron regularly and will continue to do so, and we're just working through it. When it's time to fully address it, we will. It's a process that he's going through and we're comfortable with. But we've had very, very positive conversations on a weekly basis. The West Coast offense, it's what I believe in, and it's obviously what Aaron believes in. So that part's already been built on a daily basis with the coaches. Aaron talks to the coaches on our staff. There's a lot of very positive, healthy communication going on. Now, pretty much what he did here, guys, is that he confirmed that Aaron Rodgers is going to be coming back, because just think about it. Like, if you're talking with somebody on pretty much a weekly basis, he later said pretty much on a daily basis, that pretty much indicates that, you're putting a plan together. You're kind of talking about what it's going to look like schematically for the next season. And Rodgers is just taking a little bit more time to process kind of this decision. He doesn't want to rush it. And eventually he's probably going to be signing on the dotted line. And the Pittsburgh Steelers know that. So some additional stuff here from the media scrum that I want to include here. Brooke Pryor from ESPN saying Mike McCarthy says he's been talking to Aaron Rodgers weekly, every couple of days. So like I said, guys, if you're talking with the head coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers pretty much every other day or so, or just every couple of days, you're probably planning on coming back. Then also, she says Mike McCarthy on the nature of his conversations with Aaron Rodgers, quote, just like they always are, life, football, what's going on at the facility. So he's really engaged with what's going on. So, like, why would Aaron Rodgers be talking about football and what's going on in the building if he really didn't have any weight into that and he was planning on retiring? And then another one here from Pryor saying, asked if he's uneasy with the Aaron Rodgers situation as the quarterback ponders his future. Mike McCarthy says he's, quote, comfortable with the dialogue that's occurred. So that probably tells me that Rodgers has told him, hey, I'm probably going to sign with you guys. Just give me a little bit of time to, really confirm that this is what I want to do. So let me get this straight, okay? Aaron Rodgers is having conversations with the Steelers head coach every few days and every single week, and is in communication with the rest of the offensive staff. But we're really led to believe that Aaron Rodgers is actually going to hang the Steelers out to dry here multiple weeks in the NFL free agency when, he would be essentially screwing the Pittsburgh Steelers. Like, if he was going to retire, it would make more sense for him to do it before free agency to give the Steelers a chance to move on to somebody else, like a Malik Willis or Kyler Murray. And, he'd essentially be screwing some of his best friends in the world in that Steelers locker rooms, guys that he made great connections with last year. He'd be telling them all, go to hell. You guys have to go with Will Howard as your starting quarterback next year, a sixth-round, essentially rookie next year that's never played in the NFL, if I end up making that decision to retire. So I just don't see Rodgers doing that at this point. And at this point, guys, I really do understand why Pittsburgh is as comfortable as they are. Like, people always have their opinions about, the Steelers are embarrassing themselves, and how could the Steelers, be willing to wait this long? Well, the reason why is because they're having conversations with Rodgers very regularly, and it seems very obvious he's coming back. So, like, if you're the Steelers and you're having these kinds of conversations, why wouldn't you want to bring back Aaron Rodgers if you believe that he gives you the best chance to win in 2026, which this organization clearly does? So where are you guys at? Let me know down there in the comments section. I like to ask this question a couple times a week just to kind of gauge where the fan base is at. But what is the % chance that Aaron Rodgers is back this year after these recent comments from head coach Mike McCarthy? Put it on a scale of 0 to 100 for me. 0 meaning no chance he's back, to 100 meaning he's already back, essentially. I think I'm getting closer to 100% by the day, guys. But this will be the pinned comment on today's show. So in just a second here, I'm going to tell you about our sponsor. While I tell you about our sponsor, give me a number between 0 and 100 down there in the comments section. And with that, you guys can check out our website right now, chatsports.com/Steelers Talk. And you guys can pick up a Steelers Talk channel logo t-shirt today for just $24.99 on our website right now. You guys have been asking for just a plain black channel logo t-shirt for multiple years at this point, and now we finally delivered. You guys have ordered over 100 of these things since we first came out with them. So you guys have been really showing a ton of support here, and all the proceeds for these things go back to us here at Chat Sports to help us, pay for all the things we got to here, our equipment, rent, lights, all that different stuff, to help make this whole production a reality. So if you guys want to help us out here, chatsports.com/Steelers Talk to get your channel logo t-shirt today. Now we can move on to the next topic here that Mike McCarthy discussed in Phoenix today with the Pat McAfee Show, where he talked about his new wide receiver 2, Michael Pittman Jr., who, of course, Omar Khan traded for on the first day of NFL free agency. This is why Mike McCarthy likes Pittman's fit in his offense. Loved Michael coming out of the draft. We had him rated very highly in Dallas, and if you remember, CD fell to us, we thought. But yeah, watching his career, just the way that whole deal came together, you got to give Omar a ton of credit. He was watching that situation, and it timed up great. So Mike's going to be perfect. Bigger target, can play all 3 spots, move him around. So that's just the way we like to play football. We like to play concept football and keep moving our guys around and try to create matchups. So McCarthy obviously is pretty complimentary of Michael Pittman Jr.'s skill set, and I like what he said about kind of moving people around and then kind of based on matchups, putting people in certain positions so that they can win. And having that flexibility is important for McCarthy, and I think that's a good mindset to have when building this wide receiver room. So make sure you guys click that thumbs up icon if you haven't already, if you are enjoying today's show so far. I greatly appreciate your guys' support, and the real ones know that clicking that thumbs up icon helps out the show tremendously because it tells the YouTube algorithm that you're a Steelers fan that is enjoying this content, that they should recommend this show to other Steelers fans across the globe. So if you guys want to help me out today, click that thumbs up icon. I greatly appreciate you. Now, shifting focus here to Kevin O'Connell, the Vikings head coach, who praised new Pittsburgh Steelers offensive coordinator Brian Angelico today at the NFL League meetings being held in Phoenix, Arizona. And this is what KOC had to say about the Steelers' new OC. Brian is a guy that I've coached with in multiple spots and multiple systems, and what always kept coming was similar philosophical beliefs on how you attack people, specifically in the pass game. But Ange has really a really good understanding of the run game, how to marry it together, how to marry the play pass and the keeper game to your base way of running the football. He's been vital for me in the red zone over our 4 years together in Minnesota. So when you look at it, whether it's situational football, early down kind of success, and how you tie it all together, I mean, he is so prepared for this opportunity. It's long overdue for him to get to coordinate, and it's one of those things where you wish you could just keep guys like Ange. So that's obviously some pretty high praise from the Minnesota Vikings head coach, and it sounds like we got ourselves a good one here, Steelers fans. And the fact that you're bringing in Angelico here, and he's not calling plays, I think is a good introduction for Ange here to be able to, be an offensive coordinator, but not having so much responsibility on his plate. I think him coming here to Pittsburgh and learning the ropes of offensive play calling and all that different stuff, even though I'm sure he could do it if asked to do it. I'm sure he might even call some plays in the preseason with Mike McCarthy probably just taking a back seat during those preseason games. But obviously McCarthy will be calling plays here in Pittsburgh, and I think Angelico is the perfect man for the job to help coordinate this unit into the 2026 season. Then we'll finish up here with Patrick Queen, who went on a podcast recently and pretty much trashed Mike Tomlin and Terrell Austin's defensive scheme and why he's excited about playing for Patrick Graham's defense here in Pittsburgh. It does appear that the Steelers believe in Patrick Queen and that they are going to be keeping him on the roster this year. The Steelers already paid out a multi-million-dollar roster bonus for the 2026 season, so it doesn't really make sense to cut Patrick Queen at this point in time. But this is what Queen had to say about the differences between the Baltimore Ravens defense and the Steelers defense. I done been in 2 different defenses. Baltimore was just like, that's y'all position. Y'all do what y'all got to do. Everybody help each other. With Pittsburgh's defense, y'all let the defensive line do what they want. Y'all protect them. Then the safeties, y'all protect the linebackers. And it's like, it's kind of hard to play like that. It was just eye-opening to be able to see the differences and stuff. But that linebacker position, if it's like that in some other places, that stuff's tough. I ain't lying. You got to do every single thing. You got to be able to play the run, play the pass, no matter what receiver and tight ends they got, running back, offensive lineman, you name it. You got to know every single route combination. You got to team run all the run plays. You got to be able to make the calls, line up, get everybody set up, get everybody lined up. So for me, guys, putting Patrick Queen in that quote-unquote defensive quarterback position, as Mike Tomlin liked to put it, as the green dot and the communicator there on the defensive side of the ball was just a big-time miscasting. The Baltimore Ravens actually tried to make Patrick Queen the green dot when he first got to Baltimore, didn't handle it very well, so they gave it to Roquan Smith, and that kind of opened up Patrick Queen to use his athleticism and kind of just do what he does at a high level, and he ended up becoming an all-pro caliber linebacker in that role. But then he comes to Pittsburgh, and he's asked to take on a lot more responsibilities, get guys set, calling defensive plays, all that different stuff, in the headset, and like it's just not something that is Patrick Queen's strong suit. And for some guys, they just can't handle that responsibility. And I think that Mike Tomlin, kind of stubborn as he was, just kind of wanted Patrick Queen to be that guy, and it led to a lot of miscommunication on the Steelers defense the last 2 years. As if you've been watching this team over the last 2 years, you would know. And I think that Tomlin's defense in general was tough on linebackers. I mean, he kind of just laid it out there where you're asked to do everything from covering slot wide receivers. Julian Edelman has kind of made fun of Mike Tomlin for that in the past on certain podcasts, and not only that, but you also have to play the run, and you have to kind of play how and what gap that you're in based on what the defensive line is doing. So there's a lot on the plates of the linebackers in that system that Teryl Austin and Mike Tomlin played, and it was infamous for getting the least out of linebacker talent. I mean, there's a reason why multiple linebackers have played better in other systems compared to how they played here in Pittsburgh. I mean, Robert Spillane was like a rotational third linebacker here in Pittsburgh, immediately goes to Patrick Graham's Las Vegas Raiders, and all of a sudden he's one of the best linebackers in football, and he still is with the New England Patriots. And Devin Bush was awful here in Pittsburgh as a former first-round pick, and then he goes to Cleveland where he ends up reviving his career, and he got a pretty decent contract for himself this offseason. So, you look at all these linebackers leaving the Steelers and playing better elsewhere. Hopefully Patrick Graham makes it a bit easier for these linebackers, especially because, what Patrick Queen kind of delved into in his quote was, kind of a do your job type of mentality there where, certain linebackers have certain roles in the defense, and you kind of have your job, and, you can kind of just focus on that, and you can play fast. I'm hoping Patrick Graham instills that type of system here, because that's what Bill Belichick ran in New England for so many years. And where did Patrick Graham cut his teeth? That's right, New England with Bill Belichick. So I'm hoping that this system fits Patrick Queen better than, the previous system here in Pittsburgh under Mike Tomlin and Teryl Austin. And I think that the first thing that Patrick Graham can do here and can kind of start with making Patrick Queen a better linebacker for this team is to take away his green dot. I think Patrick Queen is much better when he doesn't have to think as much, when he doesn't have to think about other people's responsibilities and communicating. He can just kind of focus on his job, and then he can use that amazing athleticism and downhill rushing ability to be able to make impact for the defense. And that's how he became an all-pro in Baltimore. That's what Mike McDonald saw in him and kind of transformed him into. And hopefully Patrick Graham can do something similar with Patrick Queen, because I think he's got a pretty decent chance of having the best year he's ever had in a Steelers uniform with Patrick Graham calling his plays for the defense. And in terms of who you would give that green dot to, it's kind of unconventional, but I would give it to Jalen Ramsey. Usually you give it to a linebacker, but I don't see Ramsey coming off the field all that often next year. Whether I think he's going to be a starting safety when you're in your base 3-4, and then I think he's going to be your big nickel when you're in your big nickel packages. So Ramsey's always going to be on the field for you. I think that he is extremely intelligent. Just hearing Mike Tomlin talk about the way Jalen Ramsey processes information, I think he can definitely handle the responsibilities of the green dot because he's going to be playing either safety or big nickel. He's close enough to the center of that defense to be able to communicate with the linebackers and also the secondary, not to mention the defensive line. So I think that, if I were the Pittsburgh Steelers, I would certainly give some thought to giving that green dot to Jalen Ramsey. So make the call for me down there in the comments section. Who should be the green dot player on the Steelers defense this year? The guy that's in charge of relaying the plays to the rest of the defense. Let me know what you guys think down there in the comment section. I think for now, I would say Jalen Ramsey, but let me know what you guys think down there in the comment section. And that'll be it for today's edition of Steelers News and Rumors, brought to you guys by Chat Sports. Thank you guys for joining me today. I'm guessing we're going to get even more stuff from McCarthy and Omar Khan here as the week goes on in Arizona. So make sure you guys click that subscribe button if you haven't already for the very latest surrounding the black and gold. First segment in the books. We got some super chats to get to here. We'll bring back Steelers Surly here. $2 from Trump Card says, okay, then trade T.J. Watt and do the same thing. Well, here's the thing, Trump Cards. I don't think T.J. Watt's worth a first-round pick either because he's aging. He's coming off a down year. He's massively expensive. I don't think you could get a first-round pick for TJ Watt at this point in his career. And I think you could probably get maybe a second or a third, still a valuable trade asset. I don't think he's worth nothing on the trade market, but like you have to realize that for a team to be willing to give up a first-round pick, it has to feel like a can't-miss kind of trade for a team. And for a guy like TJ Watt that's coming off a off year and a down year, and he's getting older, and he's super expensive, I don't think teams feel like it would be a good investment to trade a late first-round pick for Watt. So maybe I'm wrong, and maybe someone would be willing to trade a first-round pick. But here's the thing, though, Surly. I don't think the Steelers are going to trade any of their edge rushers this year.
No.
And I think eventually you're going to have to move off of one of these guys, okay? Like you've got TJ Watt, who's already under contract and a massive contract for the Steelers. Franchise legend. I'm guessing the Steelers probably want to keep him as long as he wants to play. Then you got Alex Highsmith, who was your most efficient pass rusher last year, still a really good run defender, and this goes underrated, he's a good coverage player too. Like he drops out, and that allows you to do some creative blitz looks. Watt is also very good at that. But Highsmith is still a very valuable player on a value contract, by the way. Like he doesn't account for very much against the cap for the Steelers. He's got one of the best value contracts for an edge rusher in football. Then you get Nick Herbig, who has never been a full-time starter, probably wants to be because, frankly, his production has kind of warranted him being a full-time starter. But he's not really on the field all that much. He's more of a rotational third guy when both Highsmith and Watt are healthy. And obviously, he probably wants to get paid. He's on the last year of his rookie contract, and he's going to get paid a lot of money by somebody. So eventually, something's going to have to give here. One of these guys is going to have to go.
Right.
And I think from a Steelers perspective, if we want to talk about what's realistic, I think Watt is off the table. Steelers are not trading him. They're not letting him go. I don't see that being a possibility, at least not this offseason. So, if you're going to move off of one of these guys, it's going to be either Highsmith or Herbig. And I honestly think with the Steelers being in this win now kind of mindset where they want to, bring in Aaron Rodgers, they want to try and get Cam Hayward a Super Bowl before he retires, they want to try and do right by him. I think if they can find a way to keep all three of these guys on the team this year, they're going to do that. And I think it is feasible, and here's how they could do it. Okay? They could extend Nick Herbig this offseason, okay? But you don't have a lot of the big money in terms of the cap hit come in until next season. So he's still going to be playing for cheap against the cap this year, while Highsmith and Watt have big cap hits, and they're the starters. And then next year, you trade Alex Highsmith when he's going into a contract year. He's going to be approaching 30 years old, and he's probably still going to be pretty valuable on the trade market. You can maybe get a day 2 pick for Alex Highsmith on the trade market next year. That way, you can keep all three on your team this year. You can keep Nick Herbig for the long term. You can keep TJ Watt for the long term, and you offload Alex Highsmith right before he gets to age 30. I think that's probably the best way to do it.
Sort of a win-win for everyone in that scenario.
Yes.
And when it comes to TJ Watt, if really it just comes down to if you believe he's gotten to an age where he can't produce anymore like he has, but I don't think he's gotten there yet.
Yeah.
Like he's still putting up big numbers, and I don't think, sure, you could probably get a lot for him, but he's too valuable to this defense, in my opinion. And I don't think you can move off him. So I really like your plan, honestly. Like I said, sort of a win-win for everybody in that scenario.
Yeah, and like you would still have that three-headed monster this year, and then like when Rodgers and Cam presumably retire in the years to come, you still have Watt on the team, but you have somebody that's an ascending young potential star edge rusher in Nick Herbig that you don't have to unload at this point, because I think the worst case scenario is they trade Herbig. You have two older edge rushers that are not going to be around forever, and you don't have a future at edge rusher in that case. But if you keep Herbig around, and specifically if you do the contract so that the cap hits go higher starting in year 2 of the contract, and he's the cap hit's very low for this season, which you can easily manipulate the cap and the contract that way. I just think that, obviously it makes your team the best it can possibly be this year, but it also keeps Herbig here long term. and it gives him a full-time starting spot in the future, which is what he's hoping for. And you can still get something out of Alex Highsmith next offseason. That can help build the future of this group as well. So I think that's probably the best way to do it. I don't think they're going to trade any of these three guys this year. I still think Herbig can make things a little bit uncomfortable once we get closer to training camp and like maybe hold in or looking for a new contract or something like that. But I think eventually this is going to get done, and I think we'll have all three of these guys on the Steelers this year, and that's exactly what the plan should be. $5 from Bernard says Florio said there's no guarantee Aaron Rodgers would be better in 2026 at 40-plus years old. Look at Favre from 2009 to 2010. Well, here's where I would differentiate there. The Steelers are going to have a better surrounding cast next year than they had last year. So, like, if Aaron Rodgers just maintains the level of player that he was last year with a better surrounding cast, like, this is somebody that got 24 touchdowns and 7 interceptions, and everyone says that he sucked and, like, cost this team a chance to win a playoff game. Like, if anything, he got the team to the playoffs and even gave them an opportunity to try and get a playoff win. Like, for most quarterbacks in this league, in my opinion, if they were the starting quarterback of the Pittsburgh Steelers, Pittsburgh does not make the playoffs last year. Like, there's not a whole lot of quarterbacks that can take a disappointing, underperforming defense with no downfield wide receiver weapons to throw to consistently and be able to, go on a run where you win 10 games, you beat the Baltimore Ravens twice, and you win the division. Like, I just don't see many quarterbacks being able to do that. And I think with Michael Pittman Jr. in here, if you add a legitimate wide receiver 3 that can separate versus man in particular, like, I know Florio just hates Rodgers, so that's just really where this is coming from. Where he just hates Aaron Rodgers as a person, so he thinks that he's bad as a football player too. But for me, like, I think Favre was a deteriorating physical prospect at that point in his career. Not to mention the situation in Minnesota was worse his second year than it was in his first year in Minnesota. So I think it's the exact opposite, and I honestly think it's more similar to Tom Brady going from New England in 2019 to Tampa Bay in 2020. I think that's the better comparison there. Between if we're going to compare future Hall of Fame older quarterbacks in the stage of their career. $5 from Breathing Black and Gold says, what would you think of trading pick 86 for Davante Adams? Love the show. I would fucking love it, man. I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to lie to you, Cyril. I would probably do something I can't even describe on this show without getting flagged. Holy cow. If you get Davante Adams, like, I understand what people would say. Oh, we have all these older receivers. We're not drafting a younger guy. You have to realize Aaron Rodgers likes veteran wide receivers. Exactly. And especially if it's Davante Adams, the guy that he has the greatest connection with, maybe out of any quarterback wide receiver duo in NFL history, you add him to a group that already includes DK Metcalf and Michael Pittman Jr.
They'd be set. Rodgers would be set,
dude.
In terms of weapons,
yes. And, like, by the way, if you make this trade, and, like, I personally don't think the Rams are trading Davante, so don't make this into a Sperry thinks this is going to happen thing, because I don't. But, like, just in the hypothetical situation where you could get Davante for a third, I'm taking that deal 100 times out of 100, because what is this team trying to do? They're not rebuilding, okay? They are not rebuilding as much as a lot of people want them to. That's not what they're doing, okay? They're trying to do right by Cam Hayward, and they're trying to give him a chance to win a Super Bowl before he retires, okay? What wide receiver addition for this specific Steelers team, with Aaron Rodgers likely being the starting quarterback, gets you the closest to a Super Bowl this year? It would be Davante Adams. Okay?
It's a match made in heaven.
A match made in heaven. Still one of the best red zone receivers in the game. Electric route runner, even at 33 years old. Like, this team, what it's missing is that man-to-man separator and that dynamic route runner that runs the whole route tree. That's Davante Adams. And, like, I think Aaron Rodgers and Davante, if I'm not mistaken, have the most touchdowns for a quarterback and wide receiver combination in NFL history. If it only costs a third-round pick, I know Davante's older. I know he only has 1 year left on his current contract, and it might be just a 1-year rental. But if the Steelers are serious about trying to make a run this year and Davante fucking Adams is available for a third-round pick, you do that 100 times out of 100. And then nothing's stopping you from taking another receiver as well for the future in the NFL draft. Like, obviously, it might not be a first-round pick at that point, but, like, you could still take a good receiver in round 2, round 3, round 4. You still got multiple picks in round 3 and round 4 if this trade ended up happening. I think if he's available, Omar Khan has to make it happen, dude. Now, I don't think he's necessarily available. I think the Rams are probably keeping him, but, like, if he's available, Surly, I'm pulling that trigger.
Doing some quick research behind the scenes here. So they are 8th in NFL history for wide receiver and quarterback touchdowns with 68 career touchdowns.
We need at least one more to get it to 69.
Of course.
We need to make that happen, right?
If it does happen, 69.
By the way, I would guarantee, by the way, if we trade for Davante Adams, first touchdown of the season is Rodgers to Davante. I guarantee it. Like there's no more certainty than that. Like, you know it's going to be a back shoulder fade to Davante Adams, just like the old days. And I think it would be awesome, man. And, like, listen, their first reunion in New York was the wrong time. It was on a team that was completely crumbling at the seams. They had fired their head coach. They eventually replaced their offensive coordinator. Their offensive line was a complete mess. They had no run game, no defense, no kicking ability. Like, that team was awful around Rodgers and their wide receiver room. Like, I have people always tell me, but Jack, he had a good wide receiver room in New York in 24. Yeah, but that was literally the only good thing he had. He didn't have an O-line, didn't have offensive play calling, didn't have leadership from the head coach. The defense was like 30th in the league. 30th after Saleh got fired. That defense was terrible even with Quinnen Williams and Sauce Gardner on the team. Obviously, having a wide receiver room is important, and he had that in New York in 24, but, like, that's all he had. You need other stuff, too. It's not just the wide receiver room, right? And then he goes to Pittsburgh the next year, and he has everything he didn't have in New York, but he also didn't have the thing that he did have in New York in that wide receiver room. So, if you bring in Davante Adams, you're kind of marrying both of those teams together, where you have the stability of the Pittsburgh Steelers organization, the really good, well-balanced roster, but you have that wide receiver room that you need if you have a non-mobile pocket passer at quarterback. Like, you have to have a wide receiver room and an offensive play caller that can give the quarterback answers within structure. If you don't have that, Rodgers isn't creating out of structure, right? So you need to have that in-structure stuff on point if you want this offense to take it to the next level. You bring in Davante Adams, I guarantee you're gonna reach that level. Guarantee it. $2 from James Smith says, had Mike Tomlin stayed, would free agency be different? I think there's a pretty decent chance it would have. Yes. Tomlin, it sounds like Omar Khan is almost driving the ship a little bit more in terms of the player acquisition stuff this year. And Mike McCarthy's maybe taking a little bit more of a back seat. Mike Tomlin was very involved in the players that he wanted. Like, he desperately wanted Darius Slay last year. He wanted Patrick Peterson. Like, he wanted all these guys that they brought in. Really wanted DK Metcalf. From draft and free agency and trades, like, he would identify players that he would really want. And then Omar was kind of in charge of kind of getting them here. It kind of seems like that dynamic has flipped a little bit. Now, obviously, Omar is trying to bring in players that McCarthy likes and, would like to work with in his offense and stuff like that. Same thing goes for Patrick Graham on the defensive side of the ball, but it seems like Omar is kind of the one driving the ship here almost. $2 from Bernard says, I think the $30 million thing is BS. I mean, listen, apparently the Steelers were willing to pay him more than like the $13 million they paid him last year, and he said no. He said, I don't need to get paid a lot of money. If he plays this year, and it sounds like he will, he's going to cross the $400 million career earnings threshold, Surly. This guy doesn't care about making $30 million anymore. Like, this is such, I have a lot of respect for Charlie Batch, who brought this up, but, I think at this point, people are just kind of racking their brains for reasons why somebody could be waiting this long to make a decision, when at the end of the day, it's just Aaron fucking Rodgers. That's the reason. Aaron just,
It's what he does.
It's what he does. He just wants his time to figure it out,
Yep.
And the Steelers are perfectly fine with that process, by the way. So all this talk about the Steelers being held hostage by Aaron Rodgers. No, you can't be a voluntary hostage, Surly.
No,
you have to be held against your will. The Steelers are not. The Steelers are willing participants.
And I think at the end of the day, it just drives the fans stir crazy. Mm-hmm. Honestly, it's just a waiting game at this point.
Yeah, and I understand it. Like it's frustrating. Like I would prefer Rodgers to be signed at this point, but
100%.
At this point, guys, the Steelers are comfortable with where it's at, which tells you that they're 100% sure he's signing.
Yeah.
So even though we can't say right now Aaron Rodgers is officially on the roster, we can pretty much assume he's going to be on the roster. So I understand why people are, all these different things, but I can guarantee you, man. I can't, maybe not guarantee, but I can pretty fucking close guarantee that Aaron Rodgers doesn't care about $30 million a season.
No.
That doesn't matter to him, especially because what is he trying to do at this point? It's not about making money. It's about winning the fucking Super Bowl.
Exactly.
It's about riding off into the sunset. It's about giving Mike McCarthy, the Pittsburgh guy, a Super Bowl championship. You know how meaningful that would be for a guy like Aaron Rodgers, who is as close as he is with Mike McCarthy, to see McCarthy hoist a Lombardi trophy when he's been a Steelers fan since he essentially came out of the womb. That would be such a meaningful moment for him. And I think that's why he's coming back. And we've heard reports that if it was anybody other than McCarthy, he'd be retiring. Mm-hmm. We've heard people say that. Kaboli said it last week. I think the reason why it's McCarthy is the reason why he's coming back is because he wants to be the one that allows Cam Hayward, one of his best friends in the world now, and Mike McCarthy, one of his greatest mentors in this game, hoist the Lombardi trophy in his hometown. I think that's why he's playing at this point. Yeah. And if he's demanding to get paid $30 million on a one-year contract, he hurts this team's chances of doing that. So why would there be any incentive for him to be asking that outside of just selfishness and wanting to get paid more? And I just don't think that's how Rodgers operates. I just really don't. After covering him for a year, I don't think that's who Rodgers is. $2 from CK says, why isn't the Joey Porter Jr. deal done yet? Price is going up. Yes, it is, but he's probably asking for a lot right now. I think the Steelers probably want to pay him around $25 million a season. He might be asking for 30 or 32, like top of market type of stuff, and I don't think the Steelers want to do that. So we'll just see where it goes. I do think they will come to some sort of agreement this offseason, and I'll be happy when it does. I think JPJ is an awesome fit for Patrick Graham's defense. I think he's one of the best man-to-man corners in football, especially from a press alignment in the game. So I wouldn't worry too much about that, CK. I think it will get done. It's just, again, a matter of when and not if for me. $2 from David. I appreciate you, David, for the support. We got another one here, Surly, or is that one it? All right, that's it. So let's get into our next segment here. Keep the super chats flowing, man. We've already had a great day so far. Lots of great questions. I know Steelers Surly is just lapping up the questions over here.
Must be my presence for the success today.
Yeah, right? Exactly. So maybe watch out, Ponzi. No, we love Ponzi. But let's get into our next segment here, guys. I'm going to tell you why I think landing the right wide receiver 3 to pair with DK Metcalf and Michael Pittman Jr. is the biggest, or at least it should be, the biggest offseason priority for the Pittsburgh Steelers for the rest of the 2026 offseason. And that includes bringing back Aaron Rodgers. So let's get it in right now. Our next Steelers Talk segment is coming at you right now. Today on Steelers Talk, I'm going to tell you why landing the right wide receiver to pair with DK Metcalf and Michael Pittman Jr. should be Pittsburgh's biggest priority for the rest of the 2026 NFL offseason, and in particular, the 2026 NFL Draft. Now, before we get into the content today, let me know down there in the comments section, what is Pittsburgh's biggest team need heading into the draft this year? We've just a couple weeks away from the start of the NFL Draft. There's still some spots, to say the least, that the Steelers could potentially address here as we approach the big day in Pittsburgh. So make sure you guys let me know what you guys think the biggest team need is down there in the comment section. Today, I'll be making the case why it's wide receiver. And the first thing that I want to mention here when I kind of lay out my argument here is that Pittsburgh's wide receiver room is incomplete as it currently stands. Now, I know some people, especially because, we have Darnell Washington and Pat Freiermuth, there's going to be a certain amount of 12 personnel that's played in this offense this year that, hey, we got DK Metcalf, we got Michael Pittman Jr., we got our wide receiver duo, and we're good now. But, when I look at the rest of the depth there, Roman Wilson, I don't think is a guy that you can necessarily depend on at this point, to say the least. Ben Skoranek is more of a special teams ace, more of a blocking receiver. I like that he's on the team, but he's not really a piece you want in the rotation necessarily as a true receiver. You got some interesting guys in the mix here, like A.T. Perry, who's got some talent, but overall, this is a wide receiver room that is lacking depth and lacking a true wide receiver 3 at this point. And Mike McCarthy is well known for his 3 wide receiver sets and spreading things out. You got to have that bona fide third starting receiver in this offense, and the Steelers currently don't have that. And I'm sorry, Roman Wilson fans, but Pittsburgh should not depend on him heading into the 2026 season the same way that they depended on him heading into the 2025 season. It was one of the main mistakes that they made last year, was believing in Roman Wilson as much as they did, that he was going to take that next step and become a big-time supporting player in this wide receiver room. And it got to the point where it was so bad that they had to bring in MVS and Adam Thielen to essentially bench him midway through the season. And, I want to believe in Roman. He's been working with the route god this offseason. He's looking pretty fast and pretty quick. And I've always said that I think he's got good speed. He's got good hands. I've always been a fan of Roman Wilson. I am rooting for him, but it would be a mistake at this point if the Pittsburgh Steelers go into the 2026 season depending on Roman Wilson to take that next step as this team's wide receiver 3. And honestly, man, at this point, we looked at the depth chart. Pittsburgh needs multiple wide receivers added to this group. And you got 12 picks in the NFL draft this year. You can spend at least 2, maybe even 3 on wide receivers to fill out this room, inject this group with some young talent. You already have your elder statesmen in here, right? You got DK Metcalf and you got Michael Pittman Jr., both of which are older veteran players. You can now bring in some of these younger players to compete with Roman Wilson for positioning on the wide receiver depth chart. However, I think that, even though I think they will draft multiple receivers in the draft this year, I think that first wide receiver draft selection is going to be absolutely massive for the success of the Steelers' passing offense this year, and I'm going to lay out my reasons why here, okay? So first things first, DK Metcalf and Michael Pittman Jr. are not high-end man-to-man separators. Like DK, what he's known for, separation ability vertically with his speed, and then also the run-after catch ability. Like, he is just an awesome player. If he gets a head of steam with his size, it's really, really tough to bring him down after the catch. Those are his 2 kind of specialties, okay? Not a very diverse route tree, so to speak. Then Michael Pittman Jr. is seen as more of like a chain mover, somebody that, is going to make tough catches to the short and intermediate levels of the field, move the chains. He's tough after the catch, but he doesn't really bring a lot of juice, doesn't bring a lot of explosiveness vertically down the field. So these are kind of the 2 bigger receivers in the Steelers wide receiver room. And I like this duo. I really do. But at the moment, defenses that go up against the Steelers offense, if they don't add another legitimate wide receiver 3 piece here that's complementary of those 2 skill sets, they're not going to be afraid to play man coverage against the Pittsburgh Steelers, especially if Aaron Rodgers is their starting quarterback like he's expected to be this year. And last year, the Steelers offense was the number 1 team that saw the most man coverage last year, and that was for a reason. It's because Rodgers didn't have the legs and the rushing ability to make defenses pay for playing man coverage, and they also didn't have the man-to-man separators in the room last year to force these teams out of playing man. So the reason why I think that it's so important to get a big-time man-to-man separator in this group is because I want these defenses to be playing zone coverage more. And the benefit of having a quarterback like Aaron Rodgers, who's as smart as he is and has the football IQ that he has, is that you want it to be zone coverage because you want a quarterback that knows what the rules are of the opposing defense and knows how to attack it. But if you're just seeing a bunch of man coverage and your receivers aren't winning, there's not a whole lot of opportunities for your quarterback, no matter how smart of a football player he is, to win down the field, right? So I want somebody that can come in here, beat man-to-man coverage, force these defenses in the zone so that Aaron Rodgers can be a better version of himself and use that legendary Hall of Fame level football IQ that he currently possesses. And I think that if we get teams into zone more next year, we see Aaron Rodgers pick those zones apart more often. Not to mention it will complete a legitimate wide receiver starting trio here in Pittsburgh and give Rodgers options to throw the ball down the field, options that were not present for him last year with Arthur Smith calling the plays and with the lack of weapons that we had here in Pittsburgh in 2025. So the missing piece to the wide receiver room right now is that you need to add that dynamic and versatile man-to-man separator to really complete this room. You need somebody that can run the full route tree, somebody that brings some speed and some juice to the table, and somebody that can be a reliable route runner and somebody that Rodgers can turn to in those man-to-man situations to get open, create separation, and give Rodgers an option to throw the ball down the field to without getting completely blanketed. But here's the thing. Aaron Rodgers is not the easiest quarterback to play wide receiver for, and this rookie needs to play that role, that wide receiver 3 role, that man-to-man separator role at a high level in the NFL from day one. And there's only a certain amount of receivers that are going to be able to do that at that high of a level on day one as an NFL football player. And, just plain simply, meeting Aaron Rodgers' expectations in year one is no small task. Just ask any rookie receiver that has played for Aaron Rodgers. Just ask Roman Wilson last year. It wasn't easy for him to get on the same page with Rodgers. And Rodgers has always been somebody that has been more comfortable with veteran receivers as opposed to rookie receivers and younger wide receivers. So if you're going to be bringing in somebody to fill this role as a rookie, they got to get on the same page with Rodgers and quickly. And to do that, they have to be a professional route runner the second they step in to the Steelers locker room. And there's just so many of those types of guys in every NFL draft class, including this one, which is a pretty good wide receiver group, by the way. But the stakes, in my opinion, what's on the line for the Steelers offensively this year is that if Pittsburgh doesn't get the right wide receiver and that right man-to-man separator, and they don't have that guy in this group next year, it's going to limit the passing game next year because you're once again going to have a non-mobile starting quarterback that needs to win from within structure and a wide receiver room that's not really built to beat man coverage. I think that you need to have that man-to-man separator to kind of scare these teams out of playing as much man as we saw last year against the Steelers offense if you want to get the most out of Aaron Rodgers. So the stakes are certainly there for Omar Khan and Mike McCarthy to find the right guy to fill that number 3 receiver spot. Now, coming up here on Steelers Talk, I've got the top wide receiver candidates that the Steelers can consider for that number 3 receiver spot. I'm going to be breaking down 10 wide receivers that I believe are good fits for this role and could potentially be that guy that we're talking about to fill out the rest of the starting lineup here in Pittsburgh. But let me know what you guys think down there in the comments section. How important is finding our next wide receiver 3 this offseason? Put it on a scale of 1, meaning it's not important at all. We've already got our wide receiver duo. We're good. To 10, meaning like the season's over if we don't get this right. Let me know what you guys think down there in the comments section. This will be the pinned comment on today's show. So in just a second here, I'll tell you about our sponsor today. Well, I tell you about our sponsor. Give me a number between 1 and 10 down there in the comments. And with that, if you guys want to get one of our Steelers Talk channel logo t-shirts, you guys can go chatsports.com/Steelers Talk. This is what they look like. You guys have been asking for a channel logo t-shirt for a while. And if you just want a t-shirt to wear during Steelers game days at home or just lounging around the house, you want a pajama shirt, or if you want something to wear to Steelers training camp, it's a lightweight t-shirt. If you guys want to wear this to Latrobe, I'm gonna identify you when I'm there. I'm gonna be like, man, that's an awesome t-shirt, and I'm gonna give you some love if you wear my t-shirt to Steelers training camp, because of course I take a yearly trip there. So go to chatsports.com/Steelers Talk if you guys want one of these t-shirts today. And my boss is telling me, guys, that if we can sell 25 of these t-shirts this week, we're going to be unveiling a new t-shirt on Steelers Talk next week, just in time for the NFL draft in a couple of weeks here. So go to chatsports.com/Steelers Talk to help support the channel. And with that, let's talk about some wide receiver draft prospects that the Steelers can look at. First name that I want to talk about here is Mekhi Lemon, who currently ranks 13th on the consensus big board. Apparently didn't interview too well at the NFL Combine. You guys kind of saw kind of the weird kind of press conferences that he did in Indy this year. Apparently some teams didn't love the energy from Mekhi, but he is somebody that reminds me a lot of Jackson Smith-Njigba with his separation ability. He's certainly got that diverse route tree and can separate versus man-to-man coverage. He runs his routes like a professional receiver. Can tempo his routes and vary the timing of his routes to kind of break open when the quarterback is looking at him in the progression. And, he reminds me a lot of Jackson Smith-Njigba in that way. Makes tough catches as well for a guy of his size. Like, this is a complete receiver that's a potential number one guy. It would not shock me at all if the Steelers end up taking him, maybe even trading up to get him. Mekhi even said himself in Indy that he would love to catch passes from Aaron Rodgers. So, Cali guy, I'm sure that he could connect with Rodgers in that way. So I think Mekhi Lemon is somebody definitely keep your eye on here as a potential target for Pittsburgh. But then Jordan Tyson is another one that we've talked about extensively here on the channel. And the reason why I connect him to Pittsburgh a lot, guys, is because he reminds me a lot of CeeDee Lamb on film. With his size and fluidity combination, his nuance in his route running for someone of his age is rare. It reminds me a lot of CeeDee Lamb coming out of Oklahoma. And we know how much Mike McCarthy loved Jordan or CeeDee Lamb coming out of the Sooners, drafting him there. He's actually, I believe he was the first draft pick for Mike McCarthy in Dallas, if I'm not mistaken. Could Jordan Tyson kind of repeat history here? And I think it's possible because of Tyson's injury history, right? With the knee reconstruction and the clavicle injury and the hamstring stuff this past season, and going into the pre-draft process, I feel like Tyson is a guy that could fall on day one of the NFL draft. And if he's available at 21, we know this Steelers medical staff doesn't give two fucks about medical stuff. Okay, like they will draft players that nobody else wants because of medical red flags. And, I think that if Mike McCarthy is sitting there with a chance to get his next CeeDee Lamb, he's going to say, F the medicals, I want this guy on my team. So I think there's actually a pretty decent chance Jordan Tyson could be the guy in round one for Pittsburgh. But another guy that I would definitely consider is Omar Cooper Jr., who currently ranks 24th on the consensus big board. And I'm even on record saying that I would maybe rather draft Omar Cooper Jr. over Jordan Tyson, just because Cooper, I think, is on a pretty similar level of prospect to Tyson, where I consider both these guys tier one level wide receiver prospects. Cooper is just so well balanced as a receiver. He's great after the catch. He's got good speed. He separates to all three levels of the field, good size as well. And he's just really well built. And I think that with his ability to make acrobatic catches, great after the catch, we know how important that is for a guy catching passes from Aaron Rodgers in this offense. And he doesn't have the injury concerns. So honestly, I think it's interesting here, an interesting conversation in terms of who should be the top wide receiver prospect the Steelers should be considering this year. So take your pick for me down there in the comments section. Between these three wide receivers, who would you want to take the most? Type ML for Mekhi Lemon, JT for Jordan Tyson, or OC for Omar Cooper Jr. If I'm being honest here, guys, I think Mekhi Lemon would be pretty special in this offense here with Aaron Rodgers. But honestly, man, stick and put with Omar Cooper Jr. at 21. I'd probably rather have Omar Cooper Jr. at 21 than having to trade up for a Mekhi Lemon. I'll say that right now. Now we continue on here with our list. Casey Concepcion from Texas A&M would certainly fit the bill. Currently ranks number 32 on the consensus big board. I think there's a decent chance he goes round one. But if he's available early day two, and let's say the Steelers take Venge Iwane, the guard out of Penn State, in round one, I would want to trade up into early day two here to take this guy because he's got a lot of juice. He's great after the catch. Lots of separation ability to all three levels of the field, exactly what the Steelers need to fill this kind of final spot in their wide receiver starting rotation. Now, he's got some drop issues, and I do think maybe some of the technical refinement in his routes could use some work, which maybe Rodgers wouldn't love. But I think Concepcion has got a lot of juice to him. I think you could certainly do worse than bringing him in the draft this year. Then Antonio Williams, somebody to consider here. I really consider Tony Williams more of a true slot. I just don't think he has the strength to play on the outside consistently in the NFL, but he's got a lot of speed and a lot of juice as a route runner. Now, I know Mike McCarthy likes guys that can play inside and out, and I'm not sure if that's Antonio Williams, but they're looking for a pure slot guy. Williams could fit the bill. Zachariah Branch out of Georgia, electric, ball in his hands type of player, probably the best yak threat maybe in this class outside of maybe Chris Bell from Louisville. But Zachariah, I think, is actually an underrated route runner down the field, and he can definitely separate to the vertical levels of the field. Don't think teams would want to play a ton of man coverage with Zachariah Branch taking the top off the defense. But then Skylar Bell from UConn, super efficient player out of UConn, and good route runner, good vertical threat as well. This is probably getting into the territory where I think you're maybe taking a little bit more of a chance at your number 3 wide receiver spot, but he's a good receiver. Deion Burks from Oklahoma. I think the film is a lot better than the production. I think that he gets open down the field a lot. I think that he tracks the ball well down the field as a vertical threat. I think he's a decent route runner. Like, this guy, looks pretty good on film, even though the production wasn't necessarily there at Oklahoma. And then Brendan Thompson from Mississippi State, another guy to really keep an eye on. Really fast, really good route runner, really shifty. Got a little bit of a drop issue though, so you're gonna have to deal with that. But from a speed and route running perspective, I think he fits the bill here. And then Kevin Coleman Jr. is another guy to keep an eye on here in terms of the route runner that's pretty good after the catch. He reminds me a lot actually of Jordan Addison. Okay, and he's one of my favorite value wide receivers in this class. He's not Jordan Addison, but he's a similar type of wiry. Not the biggest type of wide receiver that runs really, really good routes. He's got solid hands, good after the catch. Like, I think he's got a chance to maybe be a wide receiver 2 in this league someday, and it would fit what the Steelers need from their wide receiver 3 spot. Now, as far as I'm concerned, guys, when it comes to the wide receiver position, because I'm saying that this should be the number 1 priority for Pittsburgh this offseason to kind of unlock Aaron Rodgers and this passing offense this year, the earlier the better, because obviously the earlier you take a wide receiver, the higher chance that player is going to be able to get on the same page with Rodgers right away. They're going to get more opportunities right away. And, obviously you're getting a higher pedigree type of guy the earlier you take them. So, I'm probably talking about Mekhi Lemon, Jordan Tyson, Omar Cooper Jr., maybe Casey Concepcion for me. And I think that if you get one of those 4 guys, you're probably sitting pretty good if you're the Pittsburgh Steelers. But while we're here, another option that's on the table here is that if you don't want to have to deal with a rookie receiver getting on the same page with Aaron Rodgers in year 1 of their NFL career, you could just trade for or sign another veteran receiver to kind of round out the starting wide receiver trio this year. There's still some good veteran wide receivers still out there. I mean, can you imagine Tyreek Hill as the wide receiver 3 in this Steelers offense with his speed, his route running ability? I know he's coming off that nasty knee injury. But, man, it would be a lot of fun to see Tyreek Hill paired up with DK Metcalf and Michael Pittman Jr. Stephon Diggs, he's got some legal stuff going on right now, but he is the route runner and the type of guy that Rodgers loves to work with. Such a nuanced route runner. Always really has been. He's got terrific hands. Was the number 1 receiver on a team that went to the Super Bowl last year. So Stephon Diggs, definitely a name to maybe keep your eye on. Juwan Jennings maybe doesn't bring the juice or the speed, but he's definitely, and honestly, he's pretty similar to Michael Pittman Jr., but I think he does provide a little bit more separation at the top of his route than Michael Pittman Jr. provides. So another name to keep your eye on. Deebo Samuel, maybe if you want to bring in a true yak threat, it would make some sense, but he's not really a route runner, never really has been. And then Brandon Cooks, somebody with some experience, is a nice route runner, did some good things for Buffalo last year at the end of the year, and he's a McCarthy offense veteran, and he should be super cheap. But then, some wide receiver trade targets that you could maybe look at. A.J. Brown probably won't be traded until post-June 1st, so the draft will obviously be here before you even have an opportunity to get him. Brian Thomas Jr.'s name has come up multiple times this offseason. Some people think Marvin Harrison Jr. could be available. Jordan Addison is a name that's been thrown out there as well. Pittsburgh fans know him well for his Biletnikoff award-winning season with the Pitt Panthers and Kenny Pickett a few years back. And then Marvin Mims Jr. for kind of a more affordable option there. The Broncos just brought in Jaylen Waddle. Mims' role has kind of become redundant. I'm sure the Steelers could get a pretty legitimate wide receiver 3, and Marvin Mims Jr. is also pretty good on special teams and punt return in particular, if you want to go get somebody kind of like a Calvin Austin III, but maybe just a slightly better version than Calvin. So finish up for me down there in the comments section. Where should Pittsburgh acquire their wide receiver 3 this year? Type D if you want to go to the draft, type F if you want to go to free agency, or type T if you want to go make a trade. But that'll be it for today's edition of Steelers Talk by Chat Sports. Thank you guys for hearing me out today. We have in-depth Steelers content like this every single day on the channel, so make sure you guys click that subscribe button if you haven't already. Till next time, guys. Here we go, Steelers. All right, Surly. Got a couple more segments to go here, but 2 down, halfway home. $2 from Bernard. Says Marino said last year A-Rod can still play. Yeah, man. I think some of the throws that Rodgers made last year when he did throw it down the field in kind of more desperate situations, like, it shows that he still has the arm talent. Like, that throw to Adam Thielen in the season finale where Thielen is just completely blanketed because he has no separation ability anymore, and he just throws a perfect back shoulder, like, seam ball, and it just lands in the absolute perfect spot. Like, and that wasn't the only perfect, like, go ball type of ball that he threw last year. Like, he can – Searle, I think there's a big difference between somebody that – just straight up can't do something and somebody that doesn't do something because it's not the smart thing to do.
For sure.
For me, I think people are looking at Rodgers' ADOT, and they're looking at, how, like, the Steelers leading the league in yak last year, and they're saying this guy's just a check down Charlie. He cannot throw the ball down the field. But for me, there's a difference between somebody that cannot throw the ball down the field and somebody that's, like, completely incapable of doing it, right?
Well, we know he has the ability, but there's also a difference between, like, knowing that you don't have the weapons around you. You know your guys aren't going to go make those one-on-one plays that you need them to.
Exactly.
And that's why you go to the check down.
So what did we want Rodgers to do? Like, just sit in the pocket, hold the ball, waiting for nobody to come open and then take a million sacks? Like, is that what we wanted him to do? That's what we deal with Russell fucking Wilson. How'd that work out for us? Like, that, like, Russell Wilson, all he wants to do is throw the deep ball. And, like, everybody complained about it. Everybody hated Russell Wilson. Mm-hmm. The second Aaron Rodgers comes here and does the opposite and gets this team back into the playoffs, wins the first division championship in a half decade, he never throws the ball down the field. He can't do it. It's like there's a difference between somebody that doesn't do something versus something they can't do.
Correct.
For example, Kirk Cousins, no arm strength left. I think there's a lot of throws that he literally cannot make down the field. Mm-hmm. Aaron Rodgers still has a fucking gun.
He has a cannon.
He has a cannon on his right shoulder. Like, it's unbelievable. He still has the quick release. Now, he doesn't have the athleticism he once had, but, like, he's smart enough to be an effective pocket passer, and we saw that last year. He was a point guard. He got the ball out to Darnell Washington and DK Metcalf and Kenny Gainwell and Jaylen Warren out in space in advantageous situations for them to go make plays. Like, people just think that being number one in the league in yak for, like, the last 8 years, by the way, like, they're the number one team in the last 8 years in yak, people just think that just happens. No, that's the quarterback processing a defense and getting the ball to the right place in the right situation to the right player where they can go make a play. And Aaron Rodgers just played smart football last year, man. And, like, I think... Like I've done this thought experiment, Searle, so stay with me here, okay?
Mm-hmm. All right.
If you put Aaron Rodgers on the Rams last year and Matthew Stafford is on the Steelers with the same weapons, the same offensive play calling, same everything, does Matthew Stafford play that much better than Aaron Rodgers in Pittsburgh last year? I think it's a little bit better, probably.
But it's not like
we're winning 12, 13 games.
Exactly.
And we're going to the Super Bowl and we're winning playoff games.
He wouldn't be moving mountains.
Exactly. And by the way, Rodgers, if we're going to call Rodgers immobile, Matthew Stafford had 1 rushing yard last year. So, spare me you can't win with an immobile quarterback.
Right.
But what did Stafford have in L.A.? He had an elite play caller in Sean McVay. He had Devontae Adams and Puka Nacua. He had a great run game led by Kyron Williams. I'm not saying Aaron Rodgers would have won MVP last year the way Stafford did. I think Stafford's a better QB. But, Aaron Rodgers with the Rams, I still think they have a very good season. I think we're talking about Aaron Rodgers as a top 10 quarterback again. He would have thrown a shit ton of touchdowns to Devontae Adams. We know that. Mm-hmm. I think surrounding cast doesn't get talked about enough with these quarterbacks.
Correct.
And, people just think, the offense is as good as the quarterback is. But that's not necessarily the case. It's a symbiotic relationship where it's it's the quarterback talent in the vacuum mixed with the play calling and the weapons that they have around them. It's a multivariate equation, but people just want simple. They want simple, and they're like, the offense is good, therefore the quarterback is good. Or the quarterback is not doing well, or the offense isn't doing quite well, so the quarterback must just be absolutely terrible. It's not that simple all of the time. And I think when you look at kind of the calculus with the Steelers last year, this was an above league average scoring offense last year with easily a bottom 3, maybe the worst wide receiver room in the league. Mm-hmm. That is impressive that Aaron Rodgers was able to help us do that. And then you're telling me with an upgraded wide receiver room this year, with a better play caller, with probably a better defense this year, with a better system coming in for the defensive side of the ball, you're telling me that offense can't go up to top 10 this year? Especially with a guy like McCarthy who just pumps out top 10 offenses like it's nothing? Like, come on, man. Like, I just don't get I get the pessimism among Steelers fans because we've been stuck in place for a million years. But, like, there is a path here for this team to take that next step. Absolutely, and Aaron Rodgers is the guy that can help them do that, in my opinion. $5 again from Bernard says, I think people that think Kirk Cousins is better than Rodgers is because they don't like A-Rod as a person. I think that's certainly part of it. Listen, I'm not going to sit up here and say everybody that doesn't want Aaron Rodgers back next year hates him as a person. Like, that's just not the case to me. I think there's legitimate people, that I have a lot of respect for and no ball that don't want Aaron Rodgers back. Okay, I just happen to disagree with them, and that's okay. Like, that's why we have this community where we talk Steelers football. If we all agreed with each other all the time, it wouldn't be fun, right? So, I appreciate all the people out there that love the Pittsburgh Steelers, whether you agree with my takes on the team or not. But yeah, I probably won't agree with you there, Bernard, but that's okay. $2 from 36ZZ says it's going towards Rodgers' next bag of shrooms. What kind of shrooms is he having if he needs $30 million? Yeah, right. You know what I'm saying? Like, how? Like, I would think $13 million would be enough to pay for those shrooms. I don't know. Maybe he's got a secret bag of $15 million shrooms that he needs some extra dough for. $5 from James Smith says, what would count as a failed draft for the Steelers? If they go into the season without a man-to-man separator at receiver, that would be a failure in my opinion. If they don't add anybody to the guard position, they need to add at least competition at guard, in my opinion. I think they need to add some safety depth, somebody that could potentially be a starter in the future. They need to get some linebacker depth. So if you don't get the pieces that you need to get, then it's obviously a failure. Is probably what I would say. Like, but that's kind of a generic answer, and I'm sorry I'm giving a generic answer, but like, you have these things that you need to add to your roster. If you don't add them and you're not successful in doing that, it's a failed draft. $5 from James again says, any chance of us did we see this one before? Oh, okay. We do have another one coming in. Might take a few seconds. Okay. Got another one coming in here.
Yes, sir.
Is this one from Mikey Drell?
Yes.
Okay, I'm just going to start reading it here. Just get it up whenever. It says, cool. People say Simpson is better than Mendoza. This might be a chance for us to go get a QB who was supposed to be a top pick. We are never in position to get. If you're saying that the Steelers have a chance of getting Fernando Mendoza, I hate to crush your dream there, man, but it's not happening. There's certain people like Dan Orlovsky that, like Ty Simpson better. But Fernando Mendoza is going to be the number one overall pick in the NFL draft this year.
He's a Raider.
Like, apparently he's already having discussions about the playbook and installing the playbook with the Raiders. Like, it's happening. He's going to be a Raider. No matter what Dan Orlovsky says, no matter what Mike Tannenbaum says. Now, I will also say this, Surly. I think the backlash that Orlovsky's got for just sharing his opinion has probably gone a little bit too far.
A little bit.
But, I kind of get it, because if you are going to go up on national television and say that the quarterback that's going to be taken 20 picks after the consensus number one player, Heisman Trophy winner, national championship quarterback, and use words like clearly better, like, you're going to get pushback.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? Like, if you're saying Ty Simpson, who's like, I'm not even sure if he's in the top 32 on the consensus big board, is clearly better, like that is a direct quote, clearly better than Fernando Mendoza, like, people are going to
They're going to come at you.
They're going to come at you because, like, Fernando's been the anointed prince ever since they won the national championship, talking about the Hoosiers. And, like, listen, I disagree. I think Mendoza's the best quarterback prospect in this draft. But with that said, there's absolutely a world where Ty Simpson is the best quarterback from this class. I mean, Mendoza's going to the fucking Raiders. Okay, the team that fucks everybody up, right?
Let's not forget let's just not forget who the Raiders are.
Exactly. Not to mention, Mendoza ran a super college-y, gimmicky RPO, screen-heavy offense. He wasn't asked to really do full field progression reads. He wasn't asked to go under center. It's going to take a little bit for him to develop, and then I think he has a good chance of developing. That's why he's my number one quarterback this year. He's got the size. He's more sturdy than Simpson is. Obviously, the national championship pedigree, clutch as all hell, plus athlete. Like, he checks all those, kind of boxes.
Right.
And Simpson kind of doesn't. But like when Orlovsky says that when Simpson was healthy this past season, his tape was more NFL-like than Fernando Mendoza's, he's not wrong about that. For like Simpson, especially during that middle portion of the season, like when he was going up against ranked Vanderbilt, ranked Missouri, ranked Tennessee, ranked Georgia, many of those games on the road, and he was slicing those defenses apart in a pro-style offense, by the way, where he was asked to go under center and turn his back to the defense and take that mental snapshot that a lot of college quarterbacks are just not used to when they go to the NFL. Because just think about this, Searle. Like Fernando Mendoza, somebody that's never really played under center in his entire football playing career, is going to have to learn how to take a snap from under center. He's going to have to learn 3, 5, and 7-step footwork from under center. He's going to have to learn how to keep a base from that. From that, he's going to have to learn how to adjust his throwing mechanics to adjust to that as well. But along with all those adjustments, he's going to have to learn how to read a defense post-snap with his back turned to the defense for the first 3 seconds of the play. And he's going to have to make the correct decisions. And he's going to have to learn how to make full field progression reads, something he's never really been asked to do in college. And he's going to have to play on a bad team. And he's going to have to adjust to the speed of NFL defenses. It's just a lot to adjust to.
You're not going against the Northwesterns of the world anymore.
Exactly. You're playing Alabama every week.
Yeah.
You're playing Georgia every week in the NFL, especially when you play for the fucking Raiders. All right, and you do not have that advantage at every position like that really good Indiana team had last year, man. Like, did you know Steelers Surly? What was J.J. McCarthy known for at Michigan, right? Never throwing the football, right? Like there would be games where he would throw it 16, 17 times a game. Mm-hmm. Fernando Mendoza's pass percentage in Indiana last year was lower than J.J. McCarthy's.
Was it really?
Yes. It's going to be
that is shocking.
It is going to be the lowest for a first-round quarterback in the history of the NFL draft in the last decade.
That really surprised me.
It's like 40 something percent.
Sure.
So like he's going to have like for me, if I'm the Raiders, I still believe in Mendoza. I would pick Mendoza number one because I like the projection. I think he's smart enough to be able to make all the adjustments we just talked about. It's just if people are expecting Mendoza to go in there and just light it up, like it would be.
It's not that easy.
It would be a miracle, in my opinion, if Fernando Mendoza comes in and he's really good right away, just because of all the different stuff he's going to have to learn and adjust to at the NFL level. I think he's eventually going to get there, but like you're telling me that Ty Simpson, if he goes to a really good situation that has some good weapons already established, like he already knows how to operate an NFL offense, with a good defense, good head coach, a good situation. I think he probably needs to play in a warm weather kind of situation. Like if he goes to Arizona, like I know Nathaniel Hackett and Mike LaFleur, maybe not your choice of Sean McVay disciples there, but they're still McVay disciples, right? For sure. Warm weather city. You got Marv and Michael Wilson. You got Trey McBride. You got a good running back room. I like Nick Rallis, their defensive coordinator as well. Like, are we saying that there's zero worlds that Fernando Mendoza is a bust in Las Vegas and Simpson's not the better quarterback from this class? Like, we get this wrong all the time, guys. So this vitriol that people are putting at Orlovsky, like, I don't get it because we're wrong on the number one quarterback all the time. Oh, and there's a certain level of projection with a guy like Mendoza where it's possible he just doesn't adjust and he's bad. Like, that possibility is out there. Like, I would personally pick Mendoza over Simpson, but the idea that, like, Orlovsky's like a fucking idiot for having a different opinion, I think is nuts. $2 from Slim Thug, again, says, I meant get Simpson. Oh, okay, I got you. So I messed that up. So when it comes to getting Simpson, I think it's possible, but I don't think the Steelers view him as a quote-unquote AFC North quarterback. Now, what does that mean? Mike McCarthy actually laid it out pretty decently today. He was talking about how Aaron Rodgers, Brett Favre, they have big hands. All right, they both have 10-plus inch hands. I think Aaron's are 10 and an eighth. inch hands, and then Favre's were even bigger than that. And they got long arms, and they can sling that ball in the cold weather. Like, I think Ty Simpson's are like 9 inches, which is pretty small.
Yeah.
By the way, it's the same size as Will Howard's. It's pretty small. So even though Howard's a big guy, he's got smaller hands. So Mike McCarthy talked about how that's an important trait that he's looking for. Simpson's got smaller hands. He's a smaller body. Couldn't stay healthy in his lone starting season at Alabama. And you're going to have to, like, we're supposed to expect Ty Simpson to be able to stay healthy over the course of a 17-game regular season and then a potentially 21-game season if you're going to go to the Super Bowl. Like, I don't know if I can trust that.
Right.
You know? Especially, like, if you have Aaron Rodgers coming, you got Aaron Rodgers in your pocket. He's going to be coming back this year, and then next year's draft is going to have a lot of bigger quarterback prospects for you to choose from. I honestly am okay going with Rodgers this year. Maybe you draft like a Carson Beck or a Cole Payton on day 3, have them be the 4th quarterback to compete with Will Howard for kind of that quote-unquote younger quarterback in the room this year. You keep Mason Rudolph as your backup, and you just go with Rodgers for another year, and then you draft your next franchise guy next year. Like, I think that's a good plan for the Pittsburgh Steelers, and I like Ty Simpson. I'm higher on Ty Simpson than a lot of people. I just don't know if he's the right fit for what the Pittsburgh Steelers are looking for. $10 from Geth says, I hope Kendrick Law is available in round 4. Glue for hands, crazy fast, very physical. He does need to develop a route tree and stop jumping for the ball, but I personally see a high ceiling for him. Yeah, man, like I feel like Law is somebody that the Steelers have certainly shown interest in. Honestly, you might even be able to get him a little bit later than round 4. I think the consensus board projects him as like a 7th-round pick right now. Which I think he's probably going to go a little bit earlier than that, but I think he underperformed in the 40 time. People thought he was going to run really, really well. I think he ran in the 4.4s somewhere. But listen, like you said, really good after the catch. He's got some good hands, but like he does jump for the ball a lot. And like he's got a little ways to go. So like I've been saying Surly, how that number 1 guy needs to be the guy that can play right away. The second receiver or the third receiver that you take, they're going to be more of a depth piece, more of developmental. So, like, if he's your second or third receiver taken, I think round 4 might be a little bit rich for me. But, like, day 3, Kendrick Law, I think would be a good pick. $5 from Justin Yankuski. Says, people complain about Aaron Rodgers, but imagine being a Browns fan, Sanders, Gabriel, and Watson. I'll say, dude, I saw Jimmy Haslam say today at the owners' meetings that, there's a chance Deshaun Watson turns that trade from a swing and a miss to a home run. Yeah, fucking right. I mean, he was dead last in EPA per play, not just his last season before he got injured, but the last 2 seasons he was in Cleveland. The last 2 seasons, he was that bad. Worse than all the backup quarterbacks that qualified with over 100 pass attempts. Worse than any other quarterback that played. He was atrocious. Good luck with Deshaun Watson and Shedeur Sanders battling out for QB1 next year, Cleveland. You guys get what you fucking deserve. Okay, let's get into our next segment here, guys. Some interesting trade rumors. Devontae Adams, Marvin Harrison Jr., we're going to be talking about both of them here on the show here coming up. Could the Steelers go out and get a veteran receiver via trade before the NFL draft? Might not be as crazy as you might think. Let's talk about it right now. Today on Steelers Talk, we have some new Steelers wide receiver trade rumors as certain receivers are being linked to the Pittsburgh Steelers just weeks ahead of the 2026 NFL Draft. Welcome into Steelers Talk. I'm your host, Jack Sperry. I want you guys to predict it for me down there in the comments section before we get into the latest wide receiver trade rumors today. Will Omar Khan make another trade of any variety for a player this offseason? Of course, last year they had the big-time trade for Jalen Ramsey and Jonnu Smith after the NFL draft already went by in July. So let me know what you guys think down there in the comment section. Yes or no down there in the comment section. Will Omar Khan make another trade for a player before we get training camp started. All right, so now let's start here with a familiar face for Aaron Rodgers in Davante Adams, where Rams head coach Sean McVay said this week at the NFL owners meetings in Phoenix that the Rams have considered trading wide receiver Davante Adams this offseason, which should, if you're a Steelers fan, your ears should be perking up, because obviously Davante Adams and Aaron Rodgers have one of the most legendary connections quarterback wide receiver wise in the history of the National Football League. And can you guys imagine a wide receiver trio here in Pittsburgh where you've got Davante Adams as your number one guy, and you know Adams would be Rodgers' number one here in Pittsburgh. He would provide you the diverse route runner that this team frankly misses right now, with DK Metcalf and Michael Pittman Jr. as the two starting guys. But you bring in Adams, he's the missing piece there. And then Aaron Rodgers, I'm sure, would love this, because we all know Aaron Rodgers prefers to have veteran receivers to throw to as opposed to younger guys. So this would be one of the best wide receiver trios in the league. Davante, even at 33 years old, is getting it done. 14 receiving touchdowns last year in the Los Angeles Rams offense that led the National Football League, if I'm not mistaken, last year. Or got just about 800 yards, like a really efficient player at 13.2 yards per reception. Like, he is still a really freaking good wide receiver, man. And if you pair him back up with Aaron Rodgers in this Mike McCarthy offense, I mean, Davante can play in the slot. He can play outside. This is something that I think would really work here in Pittsburgh if the Rams are truly considering letting go of Davante Adams this offseason. Now, the problem and why I probably think the Rams aren't trading Davante Adams this offseason. They already paid Davante a 2026 roster bonus worth $6 million this year, and that can't be transferred over to the Steelers, right? That is on the Rams' books and against their cap this year, no matter what at this point. And I just don't really see the Rams wanting to part ways with a really good player in Davante Adams, someone that was a red zone monster for them last year, scored a lot of touchdowns, and I don't think they want to pay $6 million for him when he's essentially going to be playing on another football team. So my guess is the Rams probably aren't moving Tay at this point, so I don't want to get anyone's hopes up too high. However, if he is available, and it's not impossible because the Rams do still save like $20 million against the cap for this year if they let him go. But if you can get him for a third-round pick, okay, and I'm talking about any of the Steelers' third-round picks this year, all right, and that includes our first one, they're in the 70s. I would definitely make this trade. Okay, the Rams, it would make some sense for them, like if they want to add some cap space for this year to do some extensions or whatever, save some cap space. I could see them potentially letting go of Davante Adams. I don't think it's likely, but I can see a world in which it's possible. And if the Steelers can bring in Davante Adams, like obviously he's not going to be the cheapest wide receiver that you could bring in. You do have to pay him $24 million against the cap this year if he's traded. And like that's no small cap hit, right? But at the same time, like the Steelers can make it work. Right now they have a little bit over $30 million in cap space. Now they haven't signed Aaron Rodgers yet. So in order to make this work, they might even have to give Davante like a 1-year extension and kind of try and reduce that cap number, or maybe they restructure some of the contracts of certain players like DK Metcalf or TJ Watt or Pat Freiermuth this offseason to make this work. The Steelers can absolutely make this work if they need to, guys. And if Davante Adams is available, if the Steelers are serious about trying to get the most out of Aaron Rodgers this year, if they're serious about trying to do right by Cam Hayward and try to get him a Super Bowl championship before he ends up hanging up the cleats, Davante Adams, in terms of the types of third wide receivers you could add to this wide receiver room, is about as good and as much of a needle mover as you are going to find on the open market this year, whether it's trade, whether it's free agency, or whether it be the NFL draft. I think that this is something, especially with Aaron Rodgers as your starting quarterback. He likes these, veteran wide receivers more than younger guys. You can make a very good argument that this would make a lot of sense for Pittsburgh, again, if the Rams are willing to come to the table. go. So what say you guys? Let me know down there in the comments section. With this trade idea, Davante Adams in exchange for, let's just say, pick number 85 in the third round here, the second of the Steelers' 3 third-round picks. Would you accept this trade? Give me an A for accept or D for decline. For me, if this trade offer is given to me by the Rams, I am saying yes as fast as I possibly can, and I'm reuniting Aaron Rodgers and Davante Adams here in Pittsburgh. This will be the pinned comment on today's show, so in just a second here, I'll tell you about our sponsor today. Well, I'll tell you about our sponsor. Let me know what you guys think of this trade idea down there in the comments. And with that, let's have a word from our sponsor today, which is actually us here at Chat Sports. If you guys want to buy some of our merch, and specifically the Steelers Talk Channel logo t-shirt, it's currently available for $24.99 on our website right now. Just go to chatsports.com/Steelers Talk. That link is down there in the comments and description of today's show if you guys want to help out the channel. I know you guys have been asking for this particular t-shirt for a while, and it's really, really good for just wearing around the house, wearing it for Steelers game days, wearing it for Steelers live days, all that great stuff. So just go to chatsports.com/Steelers Talk. Again, that link is down there in the comments and description if you guys want to make a purchase today. Now, another potential option that has been speculated out there as somebody that could be got on the trade market this year is Marvin Harrison Jr., the former top wide receiver prospect out of Ohio State that has had a little bit of a tough go his first 2 years in the National Football League, but some people think that for the right price, the Cardinals might be willing to let him go. Now, you guys can see over the course of his first 2 years in the NFL, like he had a pretty decent season in 2024. You know, he had almost 900 yards receiving, 8 touchdowns is not bad, but then he had a worse season in his sophomore campaign, barely getting over 600 yards, cutting his touchdowns in half. Now, he obviously played in less games, but, you know, he's had some drop issues. Like, he certainly hasn't been the immediate impact that he was projected to be out of the Ohio State Buckeyes. And for me, like you guys know, I want another route runner here in Pittsburgh because right now DK Metcalf and Michael Pittman Jr., they're not really giving you a ton of diverse route running in terms of the route tree. They're not providing a lot of separation necessarily. And Marv is the guy that's got the route running chops to do that. He's a big body route runner that I think would fit perfectly with what this Pittsburgh Steelers are looking for. It's just a matter of if the Cardinals are looking to maybe let him go for the right price tag. Now, for me, I'm not willing to pay like a first-round draft pick for Maserati Marv. I'm not, because as highly touted as he was, he has had some struggles here. So there is some level of risk when you go out and get a player like this based on what he's shown on film his first 2 years. But for me, I would trade our second-round pick this year and one of our third-round picks this year. That would be my personal trade offer to the Arizona Cardinals. And by the way, this trade values Marvin at the number 36 overall pick, so an early second-round pick, which I think is more than fair given the way that Marv has played and has produced in the first 2 years of his career. Unfortunately, I really doubt Arizona, would go for that offer. I think that if they're going to be unloading, the player that they took super, super early in the NFL draft just a couple years ago, they're going to want at least a first-round pick in the deal. And I just don't think that the Steelers would be willing to do that. I don't think I would be willing to do that. And this is just something that I don't see as overly realistic for the Pittsburgh Steelers, if I'm being honest with you guys. But let me know what you guys think down there in the comments section. Would you accept this trade? Type A for accept or D for decline. Let me know what you guys think down there in the comments section. For me, I would accept. I think that that's about the right, price tag for a guy like Marvin at this point in his NFL career. But let me know what you guys think down there in the comments. And now we can talk about maybe a new slate of kind of lower-end wide receiver trade targets here. As Sports Illustrated's Jacob Punturi has listed 3 wide receivers that Pittsburgh could still trade for this offseason. Now, just so you guys know, these are nowhere near the names of Davante Adams or Marvin Harrison Jr., but these are more true wide receiver 3 types that the Steelers could consider. The first name on Punturi's list is Jaylen Hyatt, formerly from the Tennessee Volunteers, and has been an absolute no-show for the New York Football Giants since he was drafted there a few years back. If I'm being completely honest with you guys, I'm not a big fan of this one, but this is Punturi kind of breaking down his reasons why he thinks it would be a fit. The same curse that's torched Roman Wilson is apparently inflicting damage on the New York Giants receiver Jaylen Hyatt, a former third-round pick in 2023. Hyatt has played in just 41 of a possible 51 contests over the past 3 seasons. Last year, he played just 8 games games with no starts and hauled in 5 receptions on 14 targets. A fresh start is exactly what Hyatt needs, and the Steelers could provide that. Sending a late-round pick to New York, the Steelers could complete their receiver depth at a very low cost. Now, listen, man, I'm not really that interested in replacing Roman Wilson with Roman Wilson here. Somebody that's had a hard time getting on the field, somebody that just doesn't have really any production to speak of. And I just plain and simply don't want another Roman Wilson-esque wide receiver on this team. I want somebody that either has more upside from somebody in the NFL draft or somebody that's a little bit more established as a true wide receiver 2 or wide receiver 3 type if I'm going to be spending draft capital trading for a particular player. So for me, I'm completely out on the Jalen Hyatt idea. Now, the next name here, Quentin Johnston, I like a little bit more. It looks like the Chargers are more than open to dealing him to somebody this offseason, and Johnston does bring some big play ability. So I guess I'm a little bit more warm to this one than the Hyatt one, but this is what Panturi had to say about this particular idea. For the second year in a row, Los Angeles Chargers wideout Quentin Johnston is a name available on the trade market. Why exactly this is happening is unclear, but whatever the reason, the Steelers can capitalize. Johnston is 24 years old and has recorded at least 700 receiving yards in back-to-back seasons and has compiled 1,877 career receiving yards and 18 touchdowns in 46 career games. Now, I actually think Johnston is pretty underrated. I think that he's a big play threat. He's got quite a few touchdowns for somebody that gets crapped on as much as he does. He obviously has a drop issue, but and he does have a limited route tree. So I'm not a huge fan of this. Like, I think that the Steelers need to get somebody with a more diverse route tree, somebody that's a man-to-man separator, not somebody that's essentially a DK Metcalf clone, only worse. Like, that's essentially what Quentin Johnston is to me. And he's got worse hands. He's not quite as good after the catch. He's, not quite as good as a downfield threat. I don't think he really adds anything to the Steelers' offense. Maybe outside of a good yak threat, he's good after the catch. But I think you need more of a true man-to-man separator and a route runner, and Johnston isn't that. Now, Dontavian Wicks from the Green Bay Packers is a man-to-man separator, so he probably is my favorite name on this list. But as I'll discuss here in a little bit, Dontavian Wicks certainly doesn't come without his slate of unsavoriness in terms of the drops that he brings to the table. This is what Panturi had to say about this idea. Another player who consistently finds himself in trade talks is Green Bay Packers wideout Dontavian Wicks. The soon-to-be 25-year-old receiver has played 3 years in Green Bay and has taken a back seat in most of the recent one. That's where the Steelers came in. Or come in, I should say. With a huge need at wide receiver, Wicks would come in and solve their problems in return for a late-round draft pick. Now, if you're going to be adding like a true wide receiver 3 type here that's not like a legitimate bona fide starting receiver to compete for that starting wide receiver 3 spot, I think Wicks is the type of guy you probably think of. Now, he hasn't played with Aaron Rodgers, in case you're wondering. He got there the year after Rodgers left. So he would be new to the Aaron Rodgers kind of experience here, but he is a man-to-man separator for a bigger body receiver. Like, he's a pretty decent run blocker too, gets open very consistently. But he's also got a pretty big issue with drops, just like Quentin Johnston. It's been his bugaboo throughout his time in the National Football League, and it doesn't seem to be getting fixed anytime soon. So if you're somebody that doesn't like drops, Dontavian Wicks probably isn't the guy that you would want to go get. But hey, if it costs a 7th-round pick to get a legitimate man-to-man separator at his size, it could be something that the Steelers consider. But is somebody in a name that I've discussed on this channel that I'm surprised Panturi didn't, talk about a little bit more here was Marvin Mims Jr. I mean, the Broncos just traded for Jaylen Waddle, who's essentially taking Mims's role in the Broncos offense. Mims's role has really become nothing, at least in terms of being in the starting lineup. He's probably going to be reduced to just being a straight punt returner for the Denver Broncos this year if he's on the team. I think that you could probably trade a 6th-round pick or maybe even a 7th-round pick in exchange for Marvin Mims, who's got some really good vertical separation ability. He tracks the ball well down the field. Can replace Calvin Austin's role as this team's punt returner. Like, I think there's a lot of worse things you could do with your 7th-round pick this year, or maybe a pick swap in the 5th and 6th rounds or something like that to get a guy like Marvin Mims Jr. on your roster. So that'll be it for the wide receiver rumors today, guys. Type real one down there in the comments section. If you haven't already, to identify yourself as a Steelers Talk Real one that made it to the end of today's show. And that'll, again, be it for today's show, guys. Make sure you click that subscribe button if you haven't already. If the con artist strikes again on a big-time wide receiver trade, which is not impossible, by the way, we'll be here to cover it for you guys right here on Steelers Talk for free. So make sure you guys click that subscribe button. Until next time, guys, here we go, Steelers. All right. One more segment to go here, Mr. Surly. Got some super chats to discuss here, I'm assuming? Just one. All right. Cassie sent me a text. Let's see what this is. Cassie's asked me 14 minutes ago, what's my ETA? She's hungry. It's going to be a little while here. It's going to be a problem.
Yeah, I just had to text the wife. Say, sorry, going to be a little late.
Probably going to be a little bit later here tonight.
Yeah.
But we're used to it. Or maybe Searle's not used to it, but we're certainly used to it here on Steelers Talk.
For sure. I'm getting acclimated, though.
Yeah, I told Surly, man, I usually come in a little bit later on Mondays because we're here pretty late with the 4-segment live shows, and
for sure.
You guys always bring the heat with the questions. So $2 from Jason says Harrison and 53 for 21. So talking about Malik Harrison, the linebacker, and 53 for 21. Or is this a player? Oh, Marvin Harrison. What? I'm confused here, Jason. Are you? Let's say Marvin Harrison and 53 because the Steelers have the 21st pick. So I'm confused there, Jason. If you have an update on that question, I'll be happy to answer it. But I just have no idea what you're asking there. Next, is that the only one? All right. So Jason, if you have a clarification there, I'd be happy to answer it for you. But let's get into the final segment here. We still got over 400 people watching live here on Steelers Talk. I appreciate all of your guys' support, but we're going to get into our final segment of the day, and of course we'll stay live for as long as the super chats keep rolling in. So if you guys want to get some more super chats in there, if you got more questions, more comments, if you want something answered on the show, make sure you send in super chat of any dollar amount. We'll make sure to answer the question. All right, let's get into the mock draft roundup right here on Steelers Talk. Welcome into Steelers Talk. I'm your host, Jack Sperry, and today I'm going to be reacting to a couple of mock drafts done by ESPN draft analysts Matt Miller and Field Yates here over the last week, where they did multi-round NFL mock drafts here. Miller did a 7-round mock draft, and then Yates did a 2-round mock draft. We're going to be discussing their picks for the black and gold on today's show. Now, before we get into the video here today, make sure you guys click that subscribe button if you haven't already for in-depth prospect analysis every single day here for your Pittsburgh Steelers, all the players that they are meeting with, all the players that they're bringing in for visits. We give you guys in-depth analysis on how they would fit here at the Pittsburgh Steelers. Also, positional rankings. We already have our wide receiver prospect rankings video up on the channel right now, so you guys can check that out if you haven't already. We have pre-draft visit trackers every single Friday on the channel, and then weekly 7-round mock drafts where we switch it up every week, look at different possibilities for how the Steelers can go about using their 12 draft picks this year. All that draft content, guys, it's 100% free. So if you love the black and gold and you love the NFL draft, this is the perfect channel for you. Make sure you guys click that subscribe button and join the Steelers Talk family today. All right, so now first, let's talk about ESPN's Matt Miller's 7-round mock draft, because there's been a lot of talk about this mock draft on Steelers Twitter this week, and it's pretty bad. Okay, so let's just get into it. The first pick, at pick number 21, we're going offensive tackle Caden Proctor. Now, if you guys will remember, I had Caden Proctor on my list of crash-out round 1 picks for the Pittsburgh Steelers because he's a developmental offensive tackle that you're bringing in a win-now season. Well, this is why Matt Miller had this pick for the Steelers. Left tackle Broderick Jones hasn't played like a former first-rounder, giving the Steelers room to draft a replacement. Proctor is a powerful mover at 6'7" and 352 pounds. Though he had an up-and-down final season, he ended on a high note and impressed with his pre-draft testing at the Combine and his Pro Day. Proctor had 3 sacks allowed and only 2 penalties last season. Pittsburgh is rumored to be out on the quarterbacks in round 1, so it makes sense to bolster the offensive line for Aaron Rodgers' potential return. Now, for me, guys, this is a nightmare scenario for me in the first round. It's nothing against Caden Proctor as a prospect or as a guy. I just don't think that this is the kind of move that the Pittsburgh Steelers should be making with where the team is at right now. First of all, I like Dylan Cook. I think that Dylan Cook played pretty well for this team last year, and it seems like all these national media guys that don't watch the Steelers on a weekly basis like we do even know who Dylan Cook is. Like, they just think it's Broderick Jones, and then they see Dylan Cook on the roster sheet, and they're like, oh, that's just a practice squad guy. No, he was actually like a pretty darn good starting left tackle for the Steelers last year, and he outplayed Broderick Jones, and he was very serviceable for the Pittsburgh Steelers last year. Obviously, he kind of got his ass handed to him in the playoff game against Houston, but hey, everyone loses against Danielle Hunter and Will Anderson, right? So, I think that Dylan Cook could be fine as our starting left tackle this year, and if you want to bring in competition for him, that's fine, but like, I don't want it to be somebody that's as raw as Caden Proctor is. Now, just look at him, man. Like, the guy's got tree trunks for arms and legs, moves pretty well at that size too. He's got super long arms too. Like, nothing against Caden Proctor. Like, somebody's going to love to get Caden Proctor and to try and develop him, but he needs to go to a place that either A, he doesn't have to play right away, or B, can go to a place where he can play, but they're not really expecting to win, and he can develop with. And that doesn't really describe the Pittsburgh Steelers to me. Like, I don't think that, drafting a player in round one on a win-now season to sit year one makes a whole lot of sense. And if you plan on playing him, I just think he's so raw, and I think especially Aaron Rodgers would not appreciate playing behind a left tackle that's learning how to play the position at the NFL level. So for me, this would be a nightmare scenario for me. I think it's a bad start for Matt Miller's mock draft for the Steelers. Then we get to pick number 53, and still no wide receiver. We're going quarterback here in round two with Garrett Nussmeier from LSU. We've talked about Nussmeier quite a bit on the show. He's got a connection to Mike McCarthy, certainly with his dad, Doug, working for McCarthy for many years. Steelers have shown some interest in Nussmeier this year. This is what Matt Miller had to say about the Tiger heading to the Steel City. Aaron Rodgers hasn't announced his 2026 plans, but the Steelers' lack of urgency in free agency likely points to his return. But Rodgers is 42 years old, and there's no clear-cut successor on the roster. Nussmeier is ideal for Mike McCarthy's West Coast offense with good arm talent and accuracy on the move that would allow him to thrive in a short to intermediate passing game. Now, listen, man, I don't have anything against Garrett Nussmeier necessarily. With the Steelers saying that they're looking for a quote-unquote AFC North quarterback with big hands, long arms, kind of that prototypical size, like, that's not Nussmeier. He's undersized. He's got smaller hands. I think that stylistically, I agree with Miller that he would fit Mike McCarthy's offense here, and maybe if he was still in Dallas, he would definitely be interested in Nussmeier, but I honestly don't think the Steelers are that interested in Nussmeier just because of the physical limitations there in this division. But maybe they could draft him like in round 3 or round 4, but round 2 is definitely going to be too rich for me when it comes to a guy like Garrett Nussmeier, who I think has a pretty small chance of being a legitimate franchise quarterback in this league, and probably even smaller becoming that in Pittsburgh. Then in round 3, Matt Miller has Jennings Dunker, the beautiful ginger mullet from Iowa, coming to compete for the starting left guard spot. Don't mind that pick at all. I like that pick, okay? But then we get to Tyler, I can't even say his last name, the undersized, pretty much nose tackle from Texas A&M. I worry about the size. The tape's good, though. Like, he's a good run defender, provides zero pass rushing upside, though. I don't know, man. He just seems like a type of guy that's good football player, but he kind of just doesn't really fit physically into any role that you're looking for along your defensive line. And then Chris Brazzell, the wide receiver from Tennessee. If he falls to 99, that's a value, but I've been on record saying the Steelers need to get like a legitimate, diverse route runner, and Brazzell's coming from an offense that asked him pretty much to just run slants, goes, posts, digs, and comebacks, kind of similar to what DK Metcalf runs, right? So I think Brazzell's got some good hit fluidity. I think that once he gets to the league, he could potentially prove to be a more diverse route runner than he was at Tennessee and kind of their more college-y, gimmicky style offense. He brings great speed and size to the table as well, but honestly, like, I'm not sure Brazzell is what the Steelers are looking for at that wide receiver 3 spot. Then we get to the rounds 4 through 6 picks. We got Jacoby Thomas, the safety from Miami, in round 4. Trey Moore, the edge rusher from Texas, going in also in round 4. Then Katron Allen, the running back out of Penn State, going to Pittsburgh in round 5. Colin Wright, the cornerback from Stanford, in round 6. Then we get to round 7 here. Caleb Proctor from Southeast Louisiana, undersized pass rusher. I honestly like that pick more than the other one there for the Texas A&M kid. He can get after the quarterback even though he's greatly undersized. But then Julian Neal, the cornerback from Arkansas, and then Isaiah World, the offensive tackle from Oregon, rounds out the rest of the mock draft, guys. And I'm not going to sugarcoat it. With all due respect to Matt Miller, I'm sure he knows what he's talking. He knows ball, but this is a pretty brutal 7-round mock draft for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And if I'm being honest with you guys, if this ended up being what actually happens here for Pittsburgh, I'm going to be pretty upset with Omar Khan and Mike McCarthy for what they compiled here. You're going quarterback in round, your first 2 picks aren't even going to play in year 1. Most likely, because Proctor's still learning and he's still very much developing, and I guarantee you Rodgers wouldn't want him on the field if that's the case. And then you have Garrett Nussmeier, who's going to be your backup quarterback at best with Rodgers being the starter. I have 3 big concerns with this mock draft, guys. Okay, the first is obviously the first 2 picks of this mock draft probably aren't starters year 1. That should not be the case. Your first 2 picks should be the guys with the best chance to start for you in year 1. But then also specifically with the wide receivers, there's no wide receivers taken in this mock until pick number 99. And then the guy that he ends up taking, Chris Brazzell, even though I think that's a value at pick 99, I don't think that he's necessarily the skill set that the Steelers want to bank on being that route runner type in the Steelers offense. And also, they only draft 1 wide receiver in this entire 12-pick mock. I mean, in this scenario, Roman Wilson is your for sure wide receiver 4, and Chris Brazzell, you're really relying to be very, very good as your number 3 receiver immediately. And I just don't love that setup here, where I think the Steelers should draft at least 2, and I would probably recommend the Steelers draft 3 wide receivers in this year's draft. And in this mock, he only takes 1, and then the rest of the players that he gets in, on day 3, I don't think are going to be that good of picks, and they're not that good of prospects in my opinion. So for me, this is an easy D grade. I could have easily given it an F. Just don't love it. There's a couple picks that I like in there, but there's really not much that I love from this mock draft. I would be pretty upset if Omar Khan and Mike McCarthy delivered that result for us in the NFL draft this year. So now it's your turn. Let me know down there in the comments section. Grade Matt Miller's 7-round Steelers mock draft for me down there in the comments. Honestly, the more I think about it, the more I want to give it an F, man. I just don't like this mock at all, but give me an A, B, C, D, or F down there in the comments section. This will be the pinned comment on today's show. So in just a second here, I'm going to tell you about our sponsor today. Well, I'll tell you about our sponsor today. Give me a good letter grade for this mock draft down there in the comments. And if you guys want a new Steelers t-shirt, and specifically a Steelers Talk branded t-shirt, you guys can go to chatsports.com/Steelers Talk to pick up this Steelers Talk logo t-shirt today for just $24.99 on our website right now. And, this is a t-shirt that you can wear just lounging around the house. So you can wear it during Steelers Talk live days. You can wear it during Steelers game days. You can wear it to Latrobe. If you're wearing this at Latrobe during my trip, by the way, I'm definitely going to be able to pick you out of a crowd and definitely give you some love for repping the channel there at Steelers training camp. So if you guys want to rep the channel, you guys want to help support the show, all the proceeds go back to us here at Chat Sports. So again, that's chatsports.com/Steelers Talk. That link is down there in the comments and description of today's show if you guys want to make a purchase. Now we move on to to another ESPN NFL draft analyst, Field Yates, and his 2-round Steelers mock draft here. And I like this one a lot more, guys. I'm not going to lie. And he has Venga Ioane, the Penn State guard, going in round 1, pick number 21. And then in round 2, he has the wide receiver out of Mississippi State, Brennan Thompson, the speedster, going in round 2. Now, listen, man, I don't think this is necessarily a perfect 2-round scenario for the Steelers. I think Thompson might be somebody that you could potentially get in round 3. And maybe that's a little bit too rich for my blood, but overall, these are 2 good football players that I would love to add to the Steelers roster this year. This is what Yates had to say about the Ioane pick. He says the clear-cut best guard in the draft is Ioane, who also happens to fill the Steelers' biggest need other than quarterback. Isaac Seumalo, who started at left guard in Pittsburgh for the past 3 seasons, left for the Cardinals in free agency, and I continue to believe that Aaron Rodgers will decide to play one more season with Pittsburgh. Ioane is a physical, rugged guard who shows crunching power at the point of attack. He was exceedingly reliable at Penn State, meaning he could be a plug-and-play starter for new coach Mike McCarthy. Ioane ranks 14th among my top overall prospects. And then going over the second-round pick here of Brendan Thompson, he says one of my favorite value moves of the offseason was Pittsburgh trading for wide receiver Michael Pittman Jr., but the team must continue to address that position. Thompson ran the fastest 40-yard dash at the Combine at 4.26 seconds and led the SEC in receiving yards this past season with over 1,000. He can consistently get separation downfield, which will translate well to the next level. And that's why, guys, that if the Steelers end up pulling the trigger for Brendan Thompson in round 2, it's not going to completely shock me because he's got a lot of juice, obviously, with the 4.26 speed separating down the field, but he's got quick feet too, and he can run the full route tree, in my opinion, and he can do some really good stuff as a route runner, and he's obviously electric after the catch as well. So I think Thompson is a name to keep an eye on day 2. I would personally think that the value for Thompson is in round 3, and you might be reaching just a little bit if you get him in round 2 here, as Field Yates is suggesting. But this Steelers team needs explosiveness, they need juice, they need speed, and they need route running ability. And Thompson brings all those things. The one thing that I am a little bit worried about is the drops. All right, the drops are an issue for Brendan Thompson at Mississippi State, and I don't think that Aaron Rodgers is going to want to throw to people that he doesn't trust in terms of their hands. So just keep that in mind when you talk about Brendan Thompson as a prospect. But let me know down there in the comments section, based on the first 2 picks of these 2 mock drafts, which one would you prefer? And in my opinion, if you're typing an M, I have to question what you're thinking here. For me, this is clearly Field Yates, guard, wide receiver is so much better than offensive tackle, quarterback in the first 2 rounds, in my opinion. But let me know your opinion down there in the comments section. Type M for Matt Miller, type Y for Field Yates. Let me know your thoughts down there in the comments section. And that'll be it for today's edition of Steelers Talk by Chat Sports. Thank you guys for joining me here today. We're going to continue to get you guys great Steelers content on this channel every single day leading up to the 2026 NFL Draft, where we will be live on this channel for every single pick this year. So make sure you guys click that subscribe button if you haven't already. Till next time, guys. Here we go, Steelers. All right, did we get a clarification from my guy? I think it was James, was it? No. Or Jason? We did not, but we did get a super chat from James Smith, another 5. Appreciate you, James. It says, which late round pick could become the next Steelers steal? Which college program produces players that fit the Steelers the best? That's a good question.
That's a great question.
Those are a couple of good questions there. Let me think, because there's a lot of good players that the Steelers could pursue on day 3 of the draft this year. How about we go with Caden Weegan, the receiver out of Iowa. I think he's the type of guy, Surly, where you can bring him in as that third receiver that you take in this draft. He can immediately be your punt returner, and he was dicing people up in the man-to-man one-on-ones at Shrine Bowl this year. They don't throw the ball a whole lot at Iowa, so he wasn't really able to put on film what he was able to do as a route runner, but he's got awesome change of direction ability. He was much more polished as a route runner than I thought going into Shrine this year.
So as a Nebraska fan, Nebraska played Iowa, so I saw Weegan in person. Really impressive stuff.
Yeah, especially on special teams, man.
Oh yeah,
dude. So if you're looking for good wide receiver depth that can fill a big role in the team, punt returner right away.
Absolutely.
That's one that I would say definitely keep your eye on. The Steelers have definitely shown some interest in him. But listen, man, what I would do, James, is I would go to all of our previous mock drafts that we've done on the channel, and we have a bunch of late-round players that I really like in all of those mock drafts. So I would probably point you in the direction of those to get a more in-depth answer. In terms of which college program produces players that fit the Steelers the best, obviously they have a lot of Georgia Bulldogs here. A lot of Iowa Hawkeyes.
I was going to say.
I think I got to go with Iowa.
I think so.
Because, they do such a good job coaching specifically defensive players up.
Yes.
And we have Sebastian Castro here. He got brought in as a UDFA last year. Y.A. Black. It wouldn't surprise me if they consider some Iowa players in this year's draft as well.
with Iowa, the way their brand of football,
Caleb Johnson, running back, they
exactly.
end up bringing him in too.
Their brand of football is just like tough, pound it in your face until you can't stop. You can't stop it.
Defensive football, running the ball,
exactly.
Like their uniforms. I don't know if you knew this, Sterl. Was actually inspired by the Steelers in the 70s.
Was it really?
Yes.
Okay.
So there's a reason why they're like exactly the same jerseys. I'm a little surprised they don't just have the Hawkeye on one side of the helmet, like the Steelers, like the Steelers sticker is. But so I think Iowa is probably the best answer I can give to that. $2 from Bernard Nixon says, I do get why guys are annoyed at the A-Rod thing. I do too, man. Like, the thing that pissed me off, Cyril, was he knows that everybody in Steelers Nation is waiting for him.
But he doesn't care. He doesn't give a...
But it's not just that. He goes on McAfee days before free agency. He knows everybody's going to be waiting for a decision. And you know why we know that? Because he specifically called out people waiting for a decision and says, if you're only here because you want a decision, you guys could just turn it off right now. It's like, dude, if you don't want to make a decision, you want to take your time, that's fine. It's your life, all that different stuff. It's another thing to rub it in people's faces on national television.
Let's be real. It's childish.
It is.
It's
a
Bush
little
League.
It is a little Bush League, a little BS. All right, now I'm still going to stand firm from a football perspective. He gives this team the best chance to win, and I think the players in the locker room. It's been well reported. Everybody wants Rodgers back next year. Okay, so unless you're willing to say pretty much everybody in the Steelers building, players included, that play with him every day, practiced with him every day, had to share a locker room with him every day. If you're willing to say all those players that play football for a living don't know ball and are dumb for wanting Aaron Rodgers back next year, like, for me, like, you got to have a really good reason why you don't want Aaron Rodgers back next year. If literally the entire organization, from players to coaching staff to front office, are all in unison and they think that he can still play and play at a high level.
Right. Couldn't agree more.
Because those people, they get paid to do it. Like they their livelihoods are depending on Aaron Rodgers, right? Like
exactly.
like their livelihoods literally depend on Aaron Rodgers playing good football, and they want him back next year. That says something, okay? And I'm sorry, I'm going to take their opinion over Andrew Filipponi and Chris Muller and Mike Florio and all these people. Like, I'm sorry, I just will respect those people's opinions.
We're going to trust the professionals, the real ones in the building.
No, I get that that's a logical fallacy, association, a fallacy of association or whatever. But, like, it makes sense in this scenario because these people are experts on the game of football. I think these players know what good quarterback play looks like, and they played with him every day. Like, I feel like if there's anybody that's an authority on is Aaron Rodgers still a good NFL starting quarterback, it would be those people in the building, and everybody in that building wants him back. Like, it's not like, some players want him back, other players want to move on. It's every player that wants him back. Cam Hayward, who might have 1, maybe 2 years left in his career, he wants Rodgers back. Like, Cam Hayward is desperate to win a Super Bowl, and he wants Aaron Rodgers to be the guy. And Aaron Rodgers is the guy that he's entrusting to give him a Super Bowl ring before he retires. That says a lot, man. It says a lot. And if you're going to disagree with those players, man, I think you got to have a hell of a reason why. That's outside of he didn't play well in the postseason game this year, and he can't move anymore. Like, Tom Brady couldn't move his entire career. He has 7 championships. Matthew Stafford won MVP last year, had 1 rushing yard. Like, I hate this idea that if you can't move and you're not a mobile guy, that you can't have success. I feel like if you can still throw with the best of them and you got an awesome, football processor, and Rodgers still has both, if you give that kind of quarterback an awesome surrounding cast, he's going to have some sort of success.
Oh, absolutely.
And I think that's exactly what the Steelers are trying to give to him this year, and I hope that they succeed in that. $2 from Ryan. Says, love Devontae, but we should draft Jordan Tyson, in my opinion. Perfectly fair. I completely understand the want to go and get a future number 1 receiver because, let's face it, DK Metcalf is more of like a 1B, maybe a really good 2. And then Michael Pittman Jr. at this point in his career, he's probably more of a mid-level 2, low-level 2. So you don't have a legitimate number 1 alpha type in the group. And Devontae, I would say, is probably another 1B at this point. Like, I don't think he's the same alpha type of guy that he used to be. He's still really good.
Right.
But, like, if you have 2 1Bs and, like, a legitimate 2 in your trio, that's a really good wide receiver trio, man. And all of them are veterans. All of them know how to run routes like professionals and do all that different stuff. Like, I completely understand wanting to draft a wide receiver in the first round. But, like, obviously getting a veteran wide receiver is a little bit of a risk. Trading a third-round pick for maybe a one-year rental and Davante Adams has some level of risk attached to it. But you know what else has some risk attached to it? Drafting a Jordan Tyson in round 1 that can't stay healthy. He couldn't survive a 12-game college football season in any of the 3 seasons he played in college. How can we expect Jordan Tyson to make it through a full 17-game schedule consistently here in Pittsburgh? Not to mention playoffs. So, like, I like Jordan Tyson a lot. I'm going to be stoked if we draft him in round 1 this year because I think he's a perfect stylistic fit for this offense. But obviously the concern with him is he going to be able to stay on the field consistently? And I just don't know what the answer is to that. Davante Adams, you bring him in for a third-round pick, you have all veteran receivers in the starting lineup. Rodgers would love that because he loves playing with veteran receivers. And you're bringing in the player that he has a legendary connection with. Not to mention he fits exactly what the Steelers need as a man-to-man separator, as a route runner. He still brings good size to the table. He can play in the slot and outside. He would be the perfect Mike McCarthy offensive, weapon. Like, I think Davante is definitely worth a third-round pick. And by the way, Ryan, you don't have to necessarily, not draft another young wide receiver.
Yeah, right.
Like, you can still draft a receiver pretty darn early, even if you bring in Davante Adams. Now, obviously, you probably don't go round 1 receiver, but, like, you could still draft somebody in round 3. You can get a good receiver in round 3 to be your wide receiver 4 for now, and then, maybe get into the starting lineup down the road. Because Davante would just be on a 1-year contract, right? Unless they extend him. But, like, it's very possible you bring in Davante. You have Rodgers and Davante. They both probably leave next year, especially if Rodgers retires. Mm-hmm. And then that guy that you drafted in round 3 can move up and be the next man up there. But, like, if you are serious and if this team is serious about legitimately trying to compete for a Super Bowl this year and there's an opportunity to get Aaron Rodgers, Davante Adams, and pair those guys up in your offense, you fucking do it. If you really believe in this team and that opportunity presents itself, I think you do it. I don't know. That's just my opinion, but I appreciate your opinion there, Ryan. I think there's nothing wrong with that opinion. I think that it's just about taste. $5 from Jason. Sorry, meant Marvin Harrison Jr. and pick 34 for pick 21 and 121. Okay, so thank you for the clarification there, Jason. So I'm trying to think this through here. Now, obviously, this would mean that the Steelers wouldn't have a pick on night 1 of the draft that they're hosting. And I don't know, man. I feel like Art Rooney II would fucking hate that.
Oh, yeah.
I think that
it'd be a bad look.
And, like, the Steelers can say that wouldn't be, like, that's not something that they would care about. I think it's something they care about. I think they want to have that image of they're drafting their player, in the first round with Acrisure Stadium in the background, and the stage and all that different stuff. There's no way they're going to completely just say, fuck it, we're not taking a pick in round 1. Like, I just don't think that's something that this team's going to do. It would just be not a bad look, but it'd be very odd. It'd be very un-Steeler-like. Peculiar. Because they fought so hard to get the draft in Pittsburgh. Then you have to. On night 1 of the draft, like where the most eyes are going to be on the team and on the pick, you're just going to say, no, we're just going to spend it on Marv. Yeah. Like, from a pure value standpoint, it's not a bad idea. But just from what I think is a realistic standpoint from what the Steelers are going to do, I don't think they're going to do that. Because I actually thought about offering that first-round, second-round pick swap for that last video that we did on the wide receiver trade rumors. But I was like, I don't think the Steelers would do that. I think if I were the Steelers, I would probably offer up a second and a third. And if that's not good enough, it's not good enough. Right. So $5 here from Jagger. Says Steelers will have to make the decision on either left guard or wide receiver. Personally, I think we should trade up for a receiver, especially if one's close to 21. And this is the question, right? I think left guard might be a bigger quote-unquote need for the Steelers, but, like, we laid it out in our second video today why getting that man-to-man separator is so important. And if you bring in somebody from the draft this year to be your wide receiver 3, and they are not ready to be a pro and run routes the way Aaron Rodgers expects them to be run, he's not going to get the ball. So there's only so many receivers in this draft, in my opinion, that can go to Pittsburgh and be this team's man-to-man separator and have that immediate connection with Aaron Rodgers. There's only a certain amount of guys that have the skill set to be able to do that. Which is why I'm higher on the Davante Adams idea, by the way, because you don't have to worry about a young receiver coming in and building that chemistry immediately.
Yeah, it's already there.
With Aaron Rodgers. It's there.
Day one, it's there.
Day one, it's there. Davante would be this team's number 1 receiver next year.
Yeah.
You spend a third-round pick when you have 3 of them in this draft for a number 1 wide receiver. I'm taking that every day of the week, especially for a guy that has established chemistry with Aaron Rodgers, and for a fact is going to be able to run those routes the way that he expects them to be run. Because, no matter what, even if you draft, your number 1 receiver on the board, Mekhi Lemon or Omar Cooper Jr. or Jordan Tyson, even if you bring in a first-round guy, there's still going to be that question mark of, is this guy going to be the first real young receiver that connects with Rodgers right away? Because, even Rodgers kind of stumbled out of the gate with Garrett Wilson. Mm-hmm. And he's, one of the most talented receivers in the game. Top 5 pick. It just takes a little bit for these receivers to get on a certain level of professionalism in the way that they run routes where Rodgers trusts them. So, I don't know, man. If that opportunity is there to get Davante Adams, I would seriously consider it if I'm Omar. But if it's not, and it's not a possibility, then, I think Mekhi Lemon, Omar Cooper Jr., Jordan Tyson give you a pretty decent shot at that day 1. So I agree. And by the way, you can get good guards on day 2.
Yeah, you can.
It's a lower value position. They are good guards that could compete for the starting job on day 2. It's not a position where a lot of guards go on day 1, right? That's why so many people have Iwane falling to us at 21. Now, am I going to cry if they take a left guard in round 1? No. Iwane, especially if it's Iwane, he's probably the best offensive lineman in the draft this year. So he's awesome. He's an awesome scheme fit. Fits the Pittsburgh Steelers kind of mentality. It fits Omar Khan because he's only taken trench players in the first round of his Steelers tenure. But that wide receiver 3 position, guys, people want to talk about how, we have DK Metcalf and Michael Pittman Jr. We're good. No, we're not. We need one more piece, and we need to have that guy that can get teams out of man coverage, okay? We need that piece. It's an absolute must. And if you want that player to be a successful year 1 with Aaron Rodgers throwing them the football, they better be fucking good out of the gate. So I honestly lean more towards wide receiver in round 1 if you don't trade for a Davante Adams or bring in a Tyreek Hill or a Stephon Diggs. But also, how fun would Tyreek Hill be?
That would be a lot of fun.
It would be, obviously, he's coming off a major knee injury.
Yeah.
And, obviously the off-the-field stuff is not terrific.
Great.
But he's your wide receiver 3, and he'd probably be taking a prove-it contract this year because he's an older player coming off an injury, so I doubt he's going to be commanding big-time money. You bring him in on the somewhat cheap, dude, the upside of that is unreal. And he's a veteran receiver that I think Rodgers would trust.
Oh, for sure.
So that would be a lot of fun to me, and it would be a pretty cheap dart throw. And you can still take a receiver if you need to, man. You could bring in Tyreek Hill for cheap, and then you could draft a wide receiver in round 1 or round 2. They start the season as your wide receiver 4, and if Tyreek Hill sucks or if he gets in trouble, then it's okay, first round or second round pick. Now it's your turn. And I think I like that setup. I don't know. What do you guys think about the Tyreek Hill idea? I'm kind of talking myself into it.
It's entertaining.
It's definitely an entertaining idea. Now, is he even going to be ready for the start of the season?
That's the other question.
Dude, that knee...
That knee injury was brutal.
Bad. Apparently, he's not... Apparently, he needs to still get more surgeries on it.
Jesus.
So, it's definitely a risk, but... And I don't think he's going to get signed until probably later in the offseason, but I wouldn't hate it. $5 from Sean Beck says, build draft assets to trade up for Arch Manning. Well, I mean, maybe not Arch Manning specifically, but, a quarterback next year. I think that there should be probably somewhere between 4 and 6 first-round quarterbacks next year. There's a lot of talented quarterbacks across the country that could have come to the draft this year that decided to go back to school. And there's a lot of potential first-round talent floating around in college football next year. I think at the end of the process here, we probably have somewhere between 4 to 6 guys going round one. And I think that the Steelers will definitely, I wouldn't mind a couple trade downs here and there, Searle, to potentially get, some draft capital next year.
I don't think it's a bad idea.
But the problem is everyone knows next year's draft is loaded. So nobody wants to trade draft picks from next year's draft class.
Right.
Like, no one wants to trade those picks. Now, if somebody's willing to offer you those picks for next year, I say take it and run with it. All right? Like, you don't necessarily need to draft 12 players this year. You know what I'm saying? So if you can trade down and get some good draft capital for next year's draft, I think that's absolutely something I'd be interested in. It's just I think it's going to be hard to find teams willing to part ways with high draft capital in next year's draft because it's supposed to be loaded, not just at quarterback, but like at a lot of positions. So, yes, the answer is yes there, Sean. $5 from James Smith. Says, are the Steelers still building a defense-first identity around T.J. Watt or shifting towards a balanced approach with the offense? Well, you have an offensive head coach for the first time in team history, James. So I guarantee you Mike McCarthy wants players on his offense. So I still think, with Mike, what's so great about Mike is that he's an offensive head coach with an appreciation for the defensive history here in Pittsburgh. Okay? Like, he understands that defense is how teams in Pittsburgh wins because you're in the AFC North, right? You got to have physicality. You're going to play in cold weather games where it's windy outside, where you got to be able to enforce your will at the line of scrimmage. Okay? Mike understands that. He grew up in Pittsburgh. His whole football identity is around Pittsburgh toughness, and he understands the history of the defensive side of the ball here in Pittsburgh. So I like the fact that we have a head coach that's offensive minded, and that's his specialty. And he's got, great credentials in terms of getting his offenses into the top 10 year in and year out. He also has great credentials in terms of quarterback development, which is one of the main reasons why they brought him in is to develop and bring in the next franchise quarterback here in Pittsburgh. But he also has that appreciation for the defensive side of the ball. And, he could have cut Patrick Queen this year to create more cap space for offensive players. He didn't. He could have, tried to trade away Jalen Ramsey this year. He didn't. He could have tried to trade Cam Hayward somewhere else. He didn't. There's a lot of things that this team could have done. They didn't have to go out and get Jamel Dean in free agency. They did. Spend a decent amount of money on him too. So, I like the balance with an offensive-minded head coach that understands and appreciates the history of defensive football here in Pittsburgh. So that's part of the reason why I think Mike McCarthy is a really good fit as the next head coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers. Is that it? One more. All right. Noah, the Steelers fans. What's up, Noah? $2 says, do you think Ryan Shazier would be on this team right now? I don't know, man. How old is he right now? Ryan Shazier, age 33. He might be. He was really, really fucking good when he was playing, man. But I kind of feel like the attributes, the athleticism would be waning at this point. I would, if I had to guess, I would say no, Noah. But and sometimes that just is what it is. He would have been, I think, an all-time great Steeler player if he would have stayed healthy. But it's very rare that you see linebackers at that age perform at a super high level. Just got a $5 Venmo here, Searle, from Luis Noblecilla. So it's Luis the way it's normal, and then it's just Noble, Cilla. $5. And he says, why is Rudolph still on the team and lose Patrick Queen also? Well, I think Rudolph is still on the team because they like him as a backup, and Rudy is one of those guys where he's proven where if your starting quarterback gets injured and you need a starter for 2 or 3 games or whatever, he can keep the ship afloat. And that's what he is. He's not a starting caliber guy. He's not a long-term answer by any stretch of the imagination, but for a win-now team like the Steelers, if Rodgers goes down with a short-term injury like he did last year, you want somebody on the roster that can mentally process defenses, is somewhat accurate, has a decent deep ball. Like, he brings all that to the table. So, personally, if I were in charge, I would cut Mason, save the extra $3 million, and then bring in another younger quarterback to compete with Will Howard for the number 2 backup role. But, I mean, all right, so Luis, and that's Noble, and then Cilla. Nobosilla. And then, Luis, your second question there, and lose Patrick Queen also. The Steelers paid him a roster bonus for this season already that goes against their cap, Luis. So they've already made their decision. Patrick Queen will be on this team this year. So if you're not a Patrick Queen fan, I'm sorry, but you're going to have to watch him for another season. But we kind of discussed it in our first segment here, Surly, where, like, this Mike Tomlin's defense and Terrell Austin's defense asked a lot of their linebackers and put them in some really bad positions. Like Julian Edelman made fun of Pittsburgh's defense on a podcast a couple of years ago because they asked their linebackers to cover slot receivers in their base formations. And the Steelers still did that last year. Like Mike Tomlin just never changed his defensive philosophy, didn't adjust it to modern times, and like it forced those linebackers to really, play. It forced them to do a lot of things at once, and it's just hard to do multiple things at once. Where Patrick Queen, his superpower is when he can just play football, lock in on somebody, and use his athleticism to just detonate somebody. That's when he's awesome. Blitzing, attacking downhill in the run game, that sort of stuff. Like, he's really good at that. But like, if you're asking him to be the main engine of communication, where he's the green dot and he's making sure everybody's aligned correctly, and and also like the way that he described it, he made it sound like the way that it worked was that the Steelers' defensive line kind of set the tone up front, and then the linebackers had to kind of read what the defensive line was doing and then fill their respective gaps based on where the defensive line was. But like most defenses, the way it works is this guy has this gap, this guy has this gap, this guy has this gap. You have to be there. Where it kind of sounds like Mike Tomlin and Terrell Austin was like, all right, like if the defensive lineman's here, you have to go here. And it's a lot of thinking.
Yeah.
It's a lot of thinking.
Instead of just pinning your ears back and going.
Yeah, and instead of just going out and playing and just using your athleticism. And it slowed Patrick Queen down. And if there's one thing you don't want to do to Patrick Queen is slow him down. Like, he's so fast. He's so physically gifted. Like, this was just, like, it was such a bad miscasting because the Ravens tried to turn him into a green dot when he first got drafted. He was a first-round pick for Baltimore back in the day, if you'll remember. They made him the green dot immediately, and he sucked at it. He was terrible his first few years in Baltimore. Then they get Roquan Smith, who was, like, one of the best green dot, captains of the defense in the National Football League, and that opened up Patrick Queen to just play football. And he became an all-pro, which is why the Steelers gave him all the money that they did. So, like, I'm hoping that Patrick Graham takes the green dot away from Patrick Queen, just allows him to go play football, simplifies his role, don't make him think, all right? Like, just have him read and react and then click and close. Just go attack. And if that means Peyton Wilson has to be the green dot, I'm sure he's capable of doing that. All right, if that means that Jalen Ramsey as the big nickel has to be the green dot because Peyton Wilson's not going to be an every down player for you, okay, fine.
Yeah.
Like, that's fine by me. Jalen Ramsey is more than intelligent enough to handle that stuff. So, like, for me, I'm excited to see what Patrick Queen can do this year.
In a new system.
Dude, we saw Robert Spillane, who was a backup linebacker here in Pittsburgh. He goes to Patrick Graham in Las Vegas. He's immediately one of the best starting linebackers in football.
Yeah.
So, like,
a lot of good stories like that where Patrick Graham is getting the most out of his guys.
Dude, he revived
wherever they come from.
He revived Jamal Adams' career.
Yeah.
Like, Jamal Adams was a nobody. He goes to Las Vegas last year. He was one of the best defensive players they had last year. So, like, I look at, Patrick Graham. He does a really good job getting the most out of his players. All right, and Patrick Queen has proven that with a defensive coordinator that knows how to use him in the proper ways, he's an all-pro caliber player. And he's still really young. I think he's like, 25, 26? He's still really, really young. And also, it's not just Patrick Queen, guys. It's also Peyton Wilson, right? Because what's been the thing with Peyton Wilson? He's been underwhelming as a player through his first 2 years. He was somebody that was really highly touted coming out of NC State. Luke Kuechly giving him all this praise, saying that he reminds him of him, really setting the bar really high, right, for Peyton Wilson. But he suffered from the same thing Queen did, where he was in a system that really that asked him to think a lot, and Wilson's an athlete. Wilson's another guy that's really good at blitzing and doing all that different stuff. And, I'm sorry, I love Peyton Wilson as a coverage player in particular, but if you're asking him to go one-on-one and match coverage versus the number 3 slot receiver, he's going to fucking lose. Especially, if it's an out-breaking route with inside leverage, there's no way a linebacker's keeping up with that slot receiver, and teams would take advantage of it consistently. But now you get Patrick Graham, who's going to put these guys in better positions, and I think that Peyton Wilson could finally reach his potential. I think Patrick Queen could play a lot better. Now, Queen is getting paid like a top 5 linebacker this year. It's like $14 million cap hit or something like that this year. So the thing that I said early on when the team was considering cutting him or not this offseason was, if you're going to keep him, you better be fucking sure he's worth it. Because there's not many linebackers in football that are worth as much money as the Steelers are spending on Patrick Queen. But at the same time, I didn't necessarily want to cut him because there weren't a lot of options out there that I would have rather had than Patrick Queen from just a pure skill set perspective. And I am excited to see what Patrick Graham can do with him. Now, he's on the final year of his contract. He's going to be a free agent next year. So hopefully that means he's going to be motivated. Hopefully he's put in better positions to succeed. And hopefully that means we see a better linebacking room here in Pittsburgh. Because, Jesus, man, I respect Mike Tomlin and Terrell Austin as people and stuff like that, but, Jesus Christ, they put their linebackers in some tough spots. All right, we got a Venmo here, last-second Venmo here,
yes,
Cyril.
Sir.
$25 from Logan Parsley. Shout out to Logan. Make sure you put my email down there in the L3 when you get a chance to. Surly.
You're good.
Says, thanks for all the Steelers news. Appreciate you guys, Logan. $25 Venmo means that you get a Steelers Talk channel hat. So send me an email. Cyril is putting my email down there in the L3. It's Sperry@chatsports.com. Okay, so send me an email with your shipping address there, Logan, and I'll make sure to get you a Steelers hat. So, Logan Parsley. All right, guys, so Surly and I will be back on Thursday for our second Steelers Talk Live show of the week. We'll also continue to get you guys great Steelers coverage all throughout NFL Owners Meetings Week. So for more Mike McCarthy stuff, for more stuff from Omar Khan tomorrow, I'm sure there's going to be quite a bit that comes out throughout this week as we prepare for the NFL Draft, which is coming up sooner rather than later here. So I just want to thank you guys so much for all the support that you give to us here at our team at Steelers Talk. I can't share enough gratitude for the 400 people that are here for what's it been now, Surly? Almost 3 hours? Yep. Oh my gosh, almost a 3-hour live show. You guys are insane, man, but I absolutely love you. Thank you so much for all of your support, and until next time, here we go, Steelers.